Well, welcome to the first episode, Sunday Speedrunner Spotlight. For real, I actually have a person over there. See? Professional right here. Professional talk show. So, first guest, SuperSonic, legendary runner. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm fine. Just trying to figure out how I'm gonna do all this. Growing pains, I suppose. But it should be a fun
Yeah.
time. I'm glad I got everything working, it looks.
Yeah,
So,
it looks pretty good. Thanks for
yep.
having me.
Yeah. I'm excited to talk about speedrunning for a while. It's a good topic. Nice
Oh
to
yeah, for
talk
sure.
to someone for once because my first episode was kind of just introducing it and talking to myself, and I didn't know what to talk about. So now we'll actually have something to talk about. Always a good thing to have on a talk show is something to talk about. So I guess we'll just start off with the obvious first question is how'd you get into speed running?
Well, let's see. Back in 2010, I want to say, I started doing ILs for like Mega Man 9, Mega Man 10, or I don't even know if it was out around that time. I think it was. But I never did like actual full games, but I just did like regular time attacks. Um, but I didn't really get into speedrunning until like late 2015, early 2016 because one of my friends tried to pester me into doing a race with him. Ren Ninja Josh is his name, and he wanted me to race him in Mega Man 2 and Aladdin. And I never played Aladdin in the speedrunning sense, but for Mega Man 2, I played it casually, so I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. So after weeks of pestering me, I finally caved in and did my first race, and it was a lot of fun. And then I went to my first speedrunning show, Calithon 2016. They had it at the Esports Arena in Santa Ana, and it was myself, my friend Kitaru, and another friend of ours. We went there, and that was like our introduction into like going to a live event for speedrunning, and I was hooked ever since. And I actually started doing runs in May of 2016. Um, my first game was actually Mega Man 2. I played it for like a week and I stopped after that because I didn't really like it that much. But then I came back to it years later. Then I tried Mario 3, 80% No Wrong Warp. That category, it's full of auto scrollers, but
Mm-hmm.
it was short. So I'm like, it's something to get myself started. But the game that actually put me on the map was SMB1, any percent. Um, I still remember I got a raid from Darbian um, when I was doing attempts, and that was like the first time I ever interacted with him. So I was like, okay, this might be my thing here. Like I'll keep playing SMB1 for a while and see where it goes from there. And then about like a few months later, I think it was December 1st of 2016. That's when I got my first sub five. It was like a 459.3 something.
Your first was a
Um,
dot three?
yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, that was my first sub five when I started running the game, and I think my very first time that I got was like a 544. So that
Mm.
was like back in May. So I had like roughly 5 or 6 months of playing the game and getting used to it, learning the strats, and yeah, that was pretty much my start right there.
Yeah, we love to start with SMB1 and 8%, of course. You
Yeah, it
know,
was it
I,
was
I
like
at
a
least know a few things about that.
yeah, like SMB1. I grew up playing the game like for a long time. Um, I mean, I'm just to give away my age. Like I started playing video games when I was 2 years old, and I'm gonna be 36 later than 30. Yeah, 36 later this year. So ever since 2 years old playing SMB1, I remember beating the game with warp zones. It took me like a bunch of tries because like my dad taught me how to play it, and then here I am like years later, like speedrunning the game. So a lot of history with that game. So
Yeah,
it felt right to speedrun it.
I started similarly. I think SMB1 is the first game I ever beat as a kid. It's a little different for me, I guess. I think my parents bought the NES in college, and
Mhm.
they just had it when I was born, so that's how I started playing video games. So it's a fun correlation I seem to see where like people's first game they played was SMB1 and then they speedrun it later. A lot of top
Yeah.
runners are like that, or at least early on in life. Because I don't think I would have picked up that game if it wasn't like the first game I played and beat in memory.
Yeah, like SMB1 for me in particular, like I played with warp zones a lot, like growing up, and then when I was in middle school, like I want to say seventh or eighth grade, I actually beat the game warpless. So that was like my first time beating the game from start to finish without taking the warp zones. And then I think around sometime in 2017, I started learning warpless for SMB1. Started with Small Fire Mario for a bit. Ever since I watched Andrew G's run in 2014, I think, yeah, AGDQ 2014. He did that Small Fire run, and I was like, I can do this too. So I knew how to do the glitch beforehand, like after reading some like dirt sheets and whatnot about cheats and tips and tricks and such. So I already know how to do the small fire glitch, and then I was like, okay, let's try to do this in a speed run, see what kind of time I get. And I think after a few attempts or so, I got like a 1944, so like my first sub 20 with small fire Mario.
Wait, I
And
think my first sub 20 was 1944.
was it?
Yeah, I'm pretty certain. That's funny.
Oh, that's pretty neat. That seems like a pretty good number for a start, to get sub 20 in warpless.
Yep.
And I ran it ever since, and it is by far my favorite category in SMB1. Like I'm not a big fan of any
Based.
percent too much, but yeah,
We
I
we
would rather
we
play
stand
warpless.
warpless around these parts.
Yeah,
Definitely the
for
better
sure.
category.
Agreed, agreed.
It's just so much more interesting to me. Like, it's four times as long. Uh, so many different strats, and then doing fire kills. Like, that's
Hmm.
not something you would do in any percent ever. It's such a different category, and it's not as perfection needed, which is always good. You can make at least maybe a little bit of mistakes, especially starting out. But any percent, it's like, oh, you jumped a frame early. I guess you gotta press reset now. Haha.
Yeah, just any slight mishap in any percent is like pretty much a reset. But with warpless, like you have plenty of leeway until you can't make too many big mistakes. Um, and of course understanding where the backup power ups are in case you lose them. Like I would say 5-4 is probably the biggest spot. Like you can lose fire easily there, and then just re-grabbing the power ups in 6-1. So it's like kind of knowing where the power ups are after playing the game for so many years. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of became second nature in that sense.
Yep. Yeah. Once I learned Warpless, yeah, now I just know the whole game where everything is, and it's just burned into my memory forever. So I get it. You said you got a sub five pretty quickly, pretty early. How many sub fives were there back then? Do you remember?
At the time, there was only, I'm gonna say like 8
Oh
at
my
the time.
god.
I remember because I got top 10, like I was like ninth place on the leaderboards with that sub 5. And
Wow.
that was the only time I've ever been on top 10 in SMB 190% in 2016.
It's
And
crazy
now I'm
that there
like,
were so few sub fives back then because that's not like a
yeah.
terribly long time ago or anything.
Yeah, now I'm like 100 and something. Like I dropped down way too far in any percent, but I haven't really been running the category actively. But yeah, during that time, I just remember, I think it was Darb that had the world record at the time. It was like mid to 457. Um, because 456 didn't happen until like later in 2016, once
Mm.
Flagpole glitch was developed and such by Sockfolder. Um, so yeah, it was a different time back in 2016. Like starting out new and already getting a top 10 time in a game that I've been running for just a few months. So it was a pretty cool way to start out.
Yeah, that's pretty quick progression. I remember when I started, which was like 2017, late the next year. I thought there were a ton of sub fives already by then. So it's
Hmm.
crazy that just a year prior there were only 10. That's barely any.
Yeah,
And now
yeah,
there's
that was
like 350. I don't know.
Yeah, roughly 300 and something. So a
Times
lot of people
change, I
picked up the game.
suppose.
Yeah, it is a very popular category as well. Like,
Hmm.
it's short and sweet, but once you get the sub five and try to optimize it further, it gets a bit hectic. But like it was quite an experience when I first started, and just seeing like how things have changed like in the past 7 years right now. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, a lot has changed. I think the big thing is like practice tools have gotten a lot better, which is why people are able to improve a lot quicker, which is
Hmm.
nice. So you see a lot more top times that back then barely anyone had.
Yeah, I think when I first started learning the game, I didn't have an EverDrive at the time. I didn't get it until I think 2017. So I was just playing the game like from start to finish, and just kind of playing the levels in one go. So it wasn't really that great to get runs going, but after a while, I got used to it. I was watching like Darb, Cosmic, Andrew, Andrew G, and just watching them, learning from them, and that's how I got better because I had other folks to kind of pick their brains off of, to kind of learn strats and implement them to my play. And yeah, it worked out from there.
I'm glad the SME1 community has even back then always been very helpful towards everyone. You know,
Hmm.
so it's much easier to get into a speed run in a category if some other runners that frequent the category help new people out so they know what they're doing, not wasting
Hmm.
their time bullshitting their way through whatever. Like
Yeah. Yeah,
you love to see
exactly.
it, basically.
Yeah, it was really neat. Like, I actually met them in person in AGDQ 2017, which was my first GDQ that I went to. And funnily enough, the first person I ran into was Darb. Like he was kind of moving his stuff around into his hotel room, and that was the first time I actually met him in person. And I got to meet Cosmic, Andrew, uh, some of the other SMB1 runners. I think Wes was there too, like some Wes. I met him for the first time there, and they were all like really nice and helpful. Got to do some practice races with them. Got to be on the couch for the AGDQ race too, like with Wes and Sockfolder and Blecky. Gotta mention Blecky, the
Wait,
legendary.
sock folder was there?
Yeah, he was there.
Really?
Yeah,
I this is
yeah,
news to me. I try to learn like the history of SMB1 as much as I can, like GDQ runs and stuff. I guess I just missed out on that because I know everyone else you talked about. I've met almost everyone at GDQs myself, just not Andrew. He stopped going by the time I started going.
yeah,
Because wasn't that
yeah,
GDQ you met him at, like the last one he's been at?
yeah. 2017 was the last one he went to.
Yeah, that was just before my time. But
Yeah,
that sounds like it was a
Energy.
fun event.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, I was a new kid on the block pretty much,
Hmm.
just getting my feet wet in speedrunning and going to events. So I'm usually a shy person, so I usually don't like to go around and say hi to people. Like I usually struggle
Same.
with that. So I was like, you know what? It's who knows how often I'm going to be going to these things, and it was like my first time, so I'm already thinking like if I'm going to go again, which obviously I did. But at the
Many
time,
times.
yeah, like at the time, I'm just kind of going up to people, just introducing myself, and they're like the nicest people I've ever met. Like they were completely different than how they are on stream, so it's like a completely different vibe. Fit in really well, and and then sometimes I'll see somebody playing a game, and I'll just kind of watch them from afar and see how they're doing, and they're like, "Oh, hey, you want to learn a strat?" I'm like, sure, let's do
Yep.
that." They'll just kind of teach you a thing and I think I learned how to do some zips in Mega Man 2. Um,
Like
and
the
then
Fireman or Heatman, right?
yeah, the
That
Heatman
one.
zip.
And I know there's
Mhm.
like an easier Crash Man one, but like everyone does like the task one or whatever where you have I know this one where you like clip up and then you have to scroll an extra screen or something before you do the death warp. Did you learn that
Yeah,
one?
yeah, I did.
Okay. Those are
I
like the
learned
only
that
two
one.
I can think of off the top of my head. I know that game's full of them though, but I don't know which ones are like beginner ones and more advanced tech.
Yeah, the beginner friendly is more like the Heatman zip, and then they showed me how to do Quickman as well. And then they showed me the strat where you can like turn the lights back on instead
Mm-hmm.
of having them like off. So that make things a lot easier.
Yeah,
Um,
I can't imagine
so
doing it with the lights off.
I don't know how they do it. Like
No, I had
I
no
remember
idea.
watching Cool Kid do those runs. I was like, man, how are you doing that, man? Like I can't even tell where he's
Memorization,
going.
lots and lots of memorization.
Memorization is definitely a powerful tool. Like in my case, I'm really bad at memorizing stuff, but if I'm playing a game that I already know, then muscle memory kicks in.
Yeah,
But if it's something that I just recently played, then it takes me a while to learn and pick up. But with SMB1, for example, like I haven't ran the game in a while, but I can always pick it back up, and it feels like I never even left.
yeah.
Uh,
Especially
it,
runs you've just put so much time into, you never truly forget it. Like it's
yeah,
always there in your fingers. You hear the music, you touch the controller. It's like, oh yeah, and then you just play a perfect run. Always perfect when you come back. D-Rust, what's that? I'm
yeah,
sure it's always like that, right?
it's definitely like that. Um, but yeah, also speaking back on EGDQ 2017, during that time, like Lost Levels was starting to get hot as well, and that's when the Devil Spell trick
Oh
started
yeah, it was
to
that one.
become a
That's
thing.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
remember hearing about this.
yeah, I recall that Cosmic was watching this trick, and he was like, "Oh, what are we gonna call it?" And they're like, "Oh, let's call it Devil Spell. Like it sounds pretty cool." Then I do remember that we were in, I think it was Darb's room. He had the CRT and everything, and we were trying to do Devil Spell, but it was like the old style where you just actually no, yeah, the old style where you just kind of stand on the right. And I think they do a different thing now where they just kind of run into the pipe, clip
Into the
inside, and
left,
then
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I
but
don't I don't really consider that a devil spell. That's kind of like a blaze it clip where you clip into the wall and mash
mhm,
jump to go in. That was different where you're on the right of the pipe and you jump but you tap A to like clip into the right, and then Mario will clip in more if you hold right. And then when he clips in all the way,
mhm,
you mash to jump more to the left and then go down. It's weird. And it only works because for some reason in 2J, you can go down like every upside down pipe from the inside, which
yeah,
normally you couldn't do, but speedrunners will clip into anything, so
mhm.
you can clip in any pipe, and that one just happens to be faster to load the warp zone instead of taking the vine that's a little later.
Yeah, and I remember when we were learning that, it was actually a very fun time too, because we were using the power pack to reload the save state. So Andrew G, being the funny guy he is, like whenever he reloads a save state, he will actually hold down the button so it kind of prolongs the loading of the save state. And you just hear Mario's jump sound, and it sounds like a dying duck. And we
Mm.
were just cracking up. And that was probably the first time I've seen Darbian crack up like that. Because he's
Sounds
such a
like fun
stoic
times.
individual.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like all of us were just cracking up, and like Andrew G would just make us laugh somehow. Um, and yeah, so we learned how to do the devil spell trick, and I do remember it was like shortly after that, it was like dinner time, and Andrew G was like, "Hey, you want to go to dinner?" So we went to the hotel restaurant that they had, and we just kind of sat down, talked about speedrunning. And in my mind, I'm thinking, man, I'm talking to Andrew G, and we're having dinner together right now. And, like I've read about him in like various magazines and stuff that he did with SMB1. So it was like a really surreal feeling that I get to sit down, eat dinner, and chat with him about speedrunning. And like I'm just a new person, as I mentioned. So we were just kind of talking, and then he brought up to me about the 12-hour challenges that happened, and he wanted to learn Ninja Gaiden, the very first one. And he was like, "Hey, you want to do a 12-hour challenge of Ninja Gaiden?" And I'm like, "That game is hard. I don't know if I really want to
Yes.
do that." Um,
You
but I
can't say
went
no
with
to
it.
Andrew G though, so you had to
You
do it.
can't. Yeah, you can't say no to him. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. So I think it was a few weeks after AGDQ was over, they did the 12-hour challenge, and Andrew and I, we learned Ninja Gaiden, and we were racing each other too, like during that time. And I think I barely beat him by like a minute. But we had like really terrible times though. But I was like, oh wow, I actually learned Ninja Gaiden. It's actually a really fun speed run. But like at that time, I'm like, this game is really hard. I don't know if I can learn this. But that's what the 12-hour challenge was for, being able to learn the strats, repeat it, try to do some runs and see if we can complete it. And we managed to do that. And I was like, hey, this is actually pretty cool. So now I'm like thinking, okay, I can pretty much speed on anything now. So instead of just Mario. But I didn't really stick with Ninja Gaiden for very long. It was just like a one and done kind of thing. But yeah, just being able to do something with a legendary speedrunner was really cool.
And it got you into like, oh hey, I can run whatever. It doesn't matter how hard it is, as long as you learn it properly and enjoy it. There you
Hmm.
go. So maybe a learning experience, if nothing else, if
Yeah,
you've never come
exactly.
back to that game. So it wasn't worthless or anything. Sounds like it was
No.
beneficial in many ways.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like it's not often that I get to do 12-hour challenges with somebody else, because usually I would be learning on my own, and then sometimes the runner of that game would show up in chat and they'll try to help me out in that aspect. But um, yeah, that was like very fond memories for sure. Although like Andrew has been busy lately, but just that one time that we met and just clicked instantly, so it was really cool.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences going to GDQs for the first time, but mine are all a little later when it got a little busier, you could say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have like a very similar story when I had dinner with Darbian at AGDQ 2020. And then there was like, were you there at that
I
dinner?
think
I forget.
I think I
I know,
was.
I know Roy was there and a few other people. God, my memory is shot apparently. But yeah, just getting dinner with people you've watched for at that point a few years, and you're like, oh, this is yeah. I had a surreal experience. Like I know exactly how that feels. And now that I've been like part of the speedrun community for so long, I don't really get like starstruck anymore. But I definitely remember like being newer, being like, whoa, these are like people I watch and I'm here with them. This doesn't happen. GDQ
Yeah,
is fun, man. I love GDQ does so much for speedrunners to like open up, branch out, meet people. I love GDQ.
yeah, it's always fun to go to an in-person event and just being able to see people, like whether you've seen them for the first time or you've seen them again from a previous event. Like it's always great. Um, like being able to see Cosmic, uh, Wes, yourself, Roy, just seeing like a lot of the OG SMB1 runners kind of still.
I'm OG now. Oh God,
Oh,
I'm
you've
old.
been around.
I yeah. In speedrun years, yes, I'm crippled.
Yeah,
So
we're like veterans now, but
yeah, I honestly like when I started, I thought of you as like someone that's been around a while, but you were only around like a year more than me if
hmm
you started in 2016.
yeah, 2016 was when I started. Even though I have, like as I mentioned, I knew about speedrunning earlier than that, but I never really got into it. Um, and like AGDQ 2014 was the first AGDQ that I watched. But the spark wasn't there just yet.
Mm-hmm.
It was until yeah, around like 2015, 2016. Like watching the Mario races and being able to be a part of that. And um I think like the following, so like after AGDQ 2017, um, we had Calithon in Northern California. So I was like, let me submit a few games, and I don't expect to get in. And sure enough, I ended up getting in. So I submitted SMB1 any percent, 2J any percent, and SMB3 any percent no wrong work. So all three of those games were races, and the first two, like SMB1 and the SMB2J, those were with Darb, and then the last one was with Darb, Duckfist, and Red Ninja Josh. So we had like a four-way race, and I didn't expect that. Like I was going to be racing Darbian in like a main marathon
Was
and
that
in
your
person as well.
first? Was that your first marathon run?
Yeah, first marathon run, like in
Wow.
person.
And you did like three in a row,
Mm-hmm.
the Famicom trilogy,
The Famicom trilogy,
just
yeah. So
the NES versions of one and three, but close
yeah,
enough.
yeah, and I still remember those too. Like all of those races were fairly close, and surprisingly, I was able to hang with Darbian because he was such an experienced runner at the game, and I'm just the new guy, just barely getting in.
Yeah, you
And
improved quickly, so you were up
yeah,
there.
yeah. Then I remember I actually won the SB1 race because he ended up dying in 8-4, and
Oh,
then in
no.
in 2J, 2J he won because I think I ended up dying somewhere a bunch of times.
Dying in 2J, I'm shocked.
Yeah. And then like SMB3, I think Duckfist won that because I think he ended up getting one hand in the race. And then I ended up getting two, I think. And then Darb also got two. So it was like a race between me and Darb to see who would get second, who would get third. And then Josh ended up getting all three hands, I think. So we all got some variation of the hands, but
Always comes down to
uh
hands.
yeah.
That's
So
why I can't run no wrong warp for more than a little bit. Like I just hate the RNG in that game, and it matters, especially when you start like getting good times in SMB3 no wrong warp, and you have to get no hands to PB.
yeah. Yeah, it's a rough category. Like even it's like so simple, but just
Mm-hmm.
RNG could just ruin it completely. But yeah, that was like my very first marathon run. That's when I had the whole Fire Mario gimmick going. And a few months after that was SGDQ 2017, and that was my first GDQ run. And I was part of that Warpless relay race. Um, I still remember it was like me, Cosmic, BJW, Oglib, and Aaron or Area 51. So we were Team Resnor, and then we were up against like Team Boom Boom, which is I think it was Lack. Um, who was it? I think it was Kirua, Truman, and who did two? Oh yeah, Raikou Rider was 2J, and then I believe SMB2. Oh, who was it? Oh, Justifin. And then I think the last team was Team Birdo. So it was Mr. Cab, Darbian, Grand Pooh Bear, Dots Are Cool, or Isofreeze as he's known as now, and Svene or Sweden. So it was all of us, and we were just trying to coordinate everything, like how we're gonna do the games and who's gonna play what. So originally we were gonna do it in All Stars release order. So it was like SMB1, SMB2J, SMB2U, and so on and so forth. But I think we decided to do SMB1, SMB2. No, we did SMB2U, yeah, and then SMB3, and then we did Lost Levels, and then World. So during that time, I remember that I was like a nervous wreck and everything because like I'm playing in front of a bunch of people,
Yeah.
and I was a dog bone user at the time too for
Ooh.
controllers.
I can't
So
recommend that personally. I don't like the A and B button layout. It's just too diagonal upwards.
yeah, it
But
was it
it's
was
nice that
not
there's no
good.
corners like the brick does. But just the
Yeah.
A and B, if they made it a different diagonal slant, like then it's perfectly fine. But yeah, I can't play in a dog bone. I don't know how you people do it.
I mean, I was gonna go with the dog bone, but very last minute I switched over to the brick because I had my brick with me,
Hmm.
luckily. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna play on the brick. I don't feel comfortable on the dog bone, and never played on the dog bone ever since. Because
Based. That's what I'm talking about.
yeah, the brick is so much better.
Hmm.
Um, and also like the funny thing about that is like during that relay race, I was the only one on FDS, and Raikou Rider and Darb were both on Super Nintendo. And the reason for that was I refused to play Super Nintendo at the time. So they were like, okay, we're not gonna do warp plus D-4, then we're gonna do warp plus 8-4 because I didn't want to play All Stars.
Mm-hmm.
So I still remember like the tweet that GDQ made. Oh, this version looks different. Like they're playing on a Famicom disk system. And when we were trying to get my game up, when it was my turn to play, the tech guy that was playing at the time, he forgot to plug in my FDS.
Oh.
So my game wasn't turning on.
Hmm.
And I was like, what's going on? Like I gave you everything. Like they're all right here. And then 5 minutes later they figured out it was like the plug wasn't in. And
Well
I was like, oh
done.
my God, dude.
Well done, Tech.
So I'm like, oh, this is just great, like my first GDQ run and already having tech issues.
Yeah,
But
this has never happened before.
yeah, and we just started doing the run, and I think Raikou Rider did strictly small only strats, and I tried to
Gosh.
do small fire, and then Darb was doing big fire, and since like Team Boom Boom had like a huge lead at the time, it was pretty much a race between me and Darb, and we were actually trading like second and third from I think it was like 5-4 onward, and uh, eventually it came down like to seven, like I think it was like 7-4 or something, and then I somehow pulled ahead of that. But Raikou Rider was just playing his consistent game. He ended up beating both of us too. So I was like,
It was small
this is
only?
with small only, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, man, this guy beat us somehow.
It's a cool
But
showcase of all the different like route power up routes. Like you got every one, and you can't see small fire without the FDS version, so it's like
yeah,
a
I
good
had
thing that
small
you had to use
fire.
it.
Uh, yeah, like I had small fire for a few worlds and then I lost it, so I didn't set it back up again. So because I kept on losing my power ups too, I could never keep it. So I'm like, okay, I'll just keep going. Whatever happens, happens. And that was like the end of that. And after that race finished, it was really cool. Like all of us had dinner like shortly after, and I don't remember which restaurant we went to, but it might have been Fridays, like TGI Fridays.
Yeah, there's a Fridays right there.
Yeah, and all of us went there, and it was like a humongous dinner. We were just kind of talking about like how the race went, what the future plans were and stuff like that. So that was like my very first GDQ run under my belt, and from there it felt like it's second nature now. Like if
Yeah.
if I were to go on stage again, it's like no big deal. I can play this, no problem. Um, so yeah, it was really neat.
Yeah, you just need that first experience.
Mhm.
Yeah, that Fridays. Because SGDQ's been at that same hotel for years.
Mhm.
So I don't know like early GDQ history. I just know it's SGD like AGDQ's been everywhere. Like I remember they were like by DC, and then oh now we're in Florida, and like every AGDQ I went to was at a different location. But SGDQ's like consistently been at that same place.
Yeah, in terms of like AGDQ, I've only been to AGDQ 2017, 2018, and 2020. I didn't go to 2019, unfortunately. And I think that was the one where they were in Maryland, I think.
Uh
Uh,
yeah, it was just north of Bethesda.
yeah.
I forget what it was. I was there, so I'm trying to remember. But yeah, it was just north of DC by a little bit.
Yeah, that was the only one I didn't go to, but the others I went to. Um, and then like SGDQ, I've been to all of them except for 2019, of course. 2019 was kind of a year for me on
Mm.
that time. Um,
I
Mostly
didn't go to
because
that
like,
one either.
oh, you
That was
didn't?
like the one I missed too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just remember like in 2019, like I didn't have a job, so I was jobless for a while until like May of that year. And then, just for the heck of it, I decided to submit for ESA summer 2019, and I ended up getting in. So I'm like, oh shit, I gotta get there somehow now. So I ended up getting like three games out of the five that I submitted. So it was Sonic 1, SMB2J, and SMB 3. So I was like thinking, okay, I won't be able to go to AGDQ and SGDQ if I'm going to go to Sweden. So I was like, you know what? I got to find a way to go there. And then one of the Sonic runners, Dracodan, reached out to me and he was like, hey, how about we do a fundraiser to help, cover your flight costs to go to ESA? And I was like, oh yeah, sure, let's do that. Like I was not expecting that to happen. Like, having other people in the community help out another runner that, wants to go there but doesn't have the funds to do it. So it was really neat to see like a community come together and help raise like roughly $800 to um, pay the flight. And that's when I found out that, like throughout any kind of hardship or anything like that, like there will be people out there that can help you out with those sort of things. So I was really fortunate about that. So I was able to go to Sweden and play the games that I did, and that was the very first time I've been to Europe as well. So it was like the first speedrunning event outside of the U.S. that I've been to, and that was the only time I've been there too. So I've kind of wanted to go to another like out of the U.S. event like RTA in Japan. That's like another big one that I would like to go do someday. And I know they have like a really big speedrunning scene over there, like especially with SMB one as well. Um, so like just having that traveling experience, like being able to go to GDQs and just various other things. But going out of the country, that was the first time, and I was usually pretty nervous about that because I usually don't do very well like being out of the country, like especially with having um, like stomach issues and whatnot.
Mm.
But I somehow managed to get through that, and I remember like the folks over at ESA, they were very kind. And I met some of the other people, and they even had like their own dedicated NES area too. It was like in the stream room, and there's like a table laid out, and there's like a bunch of CRTs. They also had some monitors in there with like OSSCs, and they had NESs hooked up, like every single TV. And then there was like people playing Mega Man, people playing like uh, Mario, people playing Castlevania, just anything you can think of. Like they were just playing, and that's where I got to see Cool Kid there, like, and Andy. Who else? Dexter, like a lot of the Swedish speedrunners that were like really dominant in the NES scene. So it was really cool meeting them over there.
Yeah, I've never been to a event around there. I can't imagine how expensive that would be. And I don't do good with money either. So, but I remember that fundraiser you were talking about. I did a run for it. The
Oh yeah. It was the Dash Through Cancer Marathon.
yeah, I think so. But yeah, it was the one that funded your trip to ESA. I just know I did a run for it.
Oh, that one. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
That was a different event. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, okay. Well, you brought it up, so I was just like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I did something for it.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you what off the top of my head, but I remember it at the very least.
Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, that was like I remember the funds, like the fundraiser thing that we did for helping me get to ESA. That was like a 2-day event. And then months later, that was when I hosted my first marathon, like the Dash Through Cancer, and we were raising money for the Stand Up to Cancer uh,
Hmm.
fundraiser. And yeah, that was like my first time doing that, like hosting any sort of thing, and just had a few runners showcase some runs, like yourself included, of course.
Yep.
Um, that was that was an experience, like learning how to organize a marathon. A lot of things were done last minute, and like it wasn't really well prepared. Like that was mostly on me too, because I wasn't like very organized at the time. It was like first time trying to run an event, and who knows how it could turn out. But it somehow went really well. Like all the runners did great. Raised about I think $1,500 for the charity, which was really cool. Um, but yeah, just having the layouts done and hosting, like all of that stuff. That is a process, and huge respect to all those folks that organize marathons and you know just have it like tech set or tech checking and have everything situated, scheduling stuff like that. It is definitely a process. Although maybe someday I may do another marathon like that again, but it's been already 4 years since I haven't done one. But it is definitely a huge experience, and you definitely need a team for that. You can't do it by yourself. It's
Yeah,
definitely like impossible to do something like that.
it sounds like a pain in the ass. So
It
it's
really was, yeah.
so many things to figure out, and then you have to get people's captures from wherever they are streamed into your. I don't know how the process works. It sounds very complicated, so I can't imagine like the big giant streams. They have
Hmm.
to have so much going on. I just blows my mind how much work goes into that kind of stuff,
It
even
is
for the
definitely a lot of
smaller
work.
ones.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it was really rough. But I mean, I only did it for 2 days. I didn't really see myself doing it a lot more than that. But um, yeah, just the whole organizing aspect was it was brutal, but we made it work somehow. And shout outs to the folks that helped me out on that. Making the layouts, helping out with hosting and stuff. Because there was some issues where we didn't have somebody for a hosting block for like a few hours. But we had some people jump in at the last minute. So now I can understand like how hectic it would be. But if I were ever to do something like that again, then now I know how to prepare for it. So just having the right team, like knowing what they're doing, and just having that kind of delegation to have like someone with tech checks, someone with hosting, someone with scheduling, so on and so forth. And and then I obviously use my channel for it, but having the trust to have people use stream keys and whatnot to have them restream and whatnot. So always having to constantly change the stream key every time, that
hmm
was kind of annoying, but it ended up working out in the long run. So it was pretty neat.
yeah, it sounds like you've done like everything at least once or tried something. Like
Hmm.
you've done live events, you've hosted your own like 12-hour challenge. You like do it all at least once.
Hmm.
Anything else like that?
Um, there probably might be some other things I would like to do for like the first time, but they haven't really presented itself yet. So I'm just kind of waiting on an opportunity to see like, okay, if they're gonna have me, do a run for something, um, which kind of brings up the time in February of 2020, right before the pandemic happened.
Mm.
Um, so I had Mr. Shasta reach out to me
Oh yeah,
about
I
an
know what this
opportunity.
is.
Yeah, so he reached out to me about an opportunity with IGN, and he was like, "Hey, you're a Sonic runner, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am." So I think they originally reached out to him first because they thought that he ran a Sonic game, but he doesn't. So he was the one that brought it up to me, and so I got in touch with the guy Mark Medina from IGN, and he was kind of laying out the idea of what we're gonna do. So I was like, "Yeah, I'm in. Let's do it." And I remember going to the studios in LA. I didn't have anything with me because they had their own setup and all that. So I just kind of walked in there and just kind of meet with the people in the office, and then Ben Schwartz, who was the voice of Sonic from the Sonic movie, he was there, and um, he was a very chill dude. Like we got to sit and talk for a little bit before we did the show, and I was talking to him about my Mario One speedrunning, and he was like kind of jokingly saying, "Oh yeah, I used to speedrun Aladdin. I got like a top 10 time in it." And I was like, "Yeah, right." But I played along. But um,
I think that happened actually or something. I seem to remember him being on some sort of internet show where he brought that up too.
oh, did he?
Maybe. My memory could just be completely wrong. I just remember hearing something. So maybe. You never know. How many people play Aladdin. You know,
I don't know.
I don't even know which one he's talking about. I know
I don't
there's
either.
so many releases of that game.
Yeah, so I just remember we were talking about that, and then we were doing the recording for it. And before we started the actual recording, we were playing on the Sega Genesis Classics on it was like the Genesis Mini that they had. And my God, the input
Mm-hmm.
delay was absolutely terrible on that thing.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm like, I was like telling the dude, it's like, do you have like a low latency monitor or something? Because this input delay is really bad. And if I want to pull off the tricks, I need something like
Mm-hmm.
pretty much spot on because they didn't have a CRT. Like they all had monitors and stuff. And
Boo.
yeah, I was thinking at the time, like the one regret that I had, I should have brought my RetroTink setup and
Mm.
my Genesis and everything. Like that would have worked out perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But when we were doing the recording, we're just kind of having a conversation. And then I remember the IGN folks were telling me to, bring up the movie and see what he says. So I was bringing up some of the movie questions, and he just completely segues into something else. Like he
Of
was dodging
course.
all the movie questions, which is smart on his part.
NDA. You
'Cause-
can't talk about it.
yeah, yeah. So they're like, oh, just mention about the movie, but I was kind of playing the game, and I was trying to pull off some of the tricks, and then he was just talking to me about random things, especially that death line all of a sudden, which threw me off guard. And I
The
was like, I didn't
death
know how to
line.
answer that. I was like, "Are you afraid of death?" I was like,
Oh, that.
how do I answer that?" I'm like, "Yes?" Question mark. Um, um, and then like during the Sonic 2 run that we were doing, um, he just told me to balance on the button like of the capsule,
Mm-hmm.
and then ever since that day, I kept on doing it in my Sonic 2 runs. So whenever they saw Sonic do his tippy toe animation, like yeah, that's pretty much where it's from. And when we finished the recording, like the people in the studio, they loved it. And when the video aired, like a few days later, and I was talking to Mark at the time, I was like, "Did they not cut anything from the video?" I was like, "No, we kept everything from start to finish, and we just edited the bits where they had the title screen and all that." So they didn't cut a single thing from that video. It was like in its entirety,
Mm-hmm.
like from start to finish, that they had that run on there. I was like, I was shocked by that. And ever since that happened, that's when my YouTube channel blew up, my Twitch channel blew up, and I started getting like more followers on Twitter, which was totally unexpected. And like that year, like even though the pandemic was happening and everything, it just kind of snowballed from there. And shortly after that, and it was like 2 weeks after my birthday, I got an email from a representative from Twitch, and they were saying that we kind of see that your numbers are going up, and you're getting to partner like applying levels. So they had like this experiment where it was like me and another person that they reached out to, and they just asked us if we wanted to be a Twitch partner. And I was like, how can I say no to that?
Yeah.
um, so I'm like, okay. And then they're like, oh, we'll get back to you in a couple weeks. And 3 days later, I got the email that I became a Twitch partner. And
Interesting.
I was like, and I remember I was working at the office at the time. And when I saw that email, I just popped off. And the people in the office like, what the hell's wrong with you? I was like, no, nothing, nothing, nothing. And then I was just trying to be quiet. But yeah, I saw that email. I was like, wow, I'm actually a Twitch partner now. So because normally they would want you to have like average of 75 viewers and
Mm-hmm.
meet others some kind of requirements. But yeah, the representative at the time, they were like doing some kind of experiment. I don't know if they continued that experiment after that, but that was pretty much how I became a Twitch partner. And it was because of like how my channel was growing, and my numbers were getting there, but it wasn't quite reaching the threshold at the time. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna keep playing this, one of the games that I was running at the time. I think it might have been like Sonic, and I'll keep my numbers growing from there. So it was like a huge weight lifted off my shoulders, like a lot of like years of hard work that I was doing, trying to, grow my channel. kind of do speed running and stuff like that. Try to expand to other things. So it was all thanks to that opportunity there that it was able to happen. And from there, I'm just trying to learn new things and still keeping speedrunning as my main content too. Because like sometimes, if you try to do something else, like it is a big risk, but um, it paid off in its own right. But that's when I think to myself, like, you know what, I got here because of speedrunning. So all of these things that happened in the past, what, 7 years now, it was all because of speedrunning. And ever since I got pestered into doing that race with Red Ninja Josh, and which he was a big factor for me getting into speedrunning. So like without him, I probably wouldn't even be here right now doing speedrunning, or I don't even know how I would actually get into it really.
Mm-hmm.
So because of Red Ninja Josh, like I always thank him, like for getting me into this crazy hobby.
Yeah.
Being able to have opportunities like this and being able to meet people, um, showcase speedruns for various marathons, whether it's online or in person. Um, yeah, it's great. Like I wouldn't have it any other way. So it was really cool.
Yeah, I didn't actually know that you got partnered differently than like the normal way. I didn't know there was that whole, I don't know, what was it, a test?
Yeah, so it was kind of
Whatever that was.
yeah, it was like an experiment. I know I have that email somewhere, but it's probably like ways
Yeah,
back
you don't
now.
have to pull it up or anything. I'm just, I didn't know that. I didn't even know that was ever a thing. Like,
Yeah,
what were they
yeah.
experimenting with?
Yeah, I don't, it was very weird to me too because I just remember I was driving home from work and I saw that email pop up. I was like, "What is this? Let me read it." And the representative, I mean, they don't work there anymore, but
Hmm.
at the time, they reached out to me because I think they've seen me in some events, and then they've seen like how the channel was growing, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we're trying out this new partner program, to give an opportunity to people who are trying to reach partner, to actually get it."
Hmm.
Even though like the numbers are there, but it's not quite at the level that they want it to be at. So it's like they see the growth and everything, like they see the consistency that's happening. So they're like, okay, let's offer you the partnership and see if you accept or not. And they were only doing it for two people at that time, so I was luckily one of those people. So I was like, this this can't be real,
Yeah,
like
that's very interesting.
yeah, because I was trying to do it the way everybody else does it, where
Mm-hmm.
they were doing like the three requirements. And
75 average viewers, however many streams in a month, and then hours streamed that month, I think, are the
yeah,
three.
yeah. Hmm.
That 75 is impossible, let me tell you.
It is hard to get, yeah. But I was around that time, like I hit 75 a few times, and but it never stayed there because it would
Mm-hmm.
always either dip down or it'll rise up, like what have you. So I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm ever gonna get Twitch partnership at this rate. But when that opportunity came up, I was like, wow, this is actually happening, and I didn't think there was actually a way like that they would do it. But yeah, as I mentioned, I don't know if they're still doing that experiment or anything like that, or they just randomly pick somebody that is close to the threshold and just offer them partnership. But yeah, that was how I got it, and like it felt to me that I was working hard at trying to grow my channel and everything, so they recognized what I was doing, and I was like, they actually see somebody putting in the work, and they're rewarding them for that. So I'm always grateful for that representative for helping me reach that goal, which I never really thought of achieving like for a long time. But after streaming for like around that time, it was I think 7 years because I started streaming in 2013, and but I didn't speedrun at the time. I was more of like a casual, filthy casual gamer
Filthy
kind of thing.
casual.
Yeah. So, but during that time, like I wasn't really like a consistent streamer either. Like I just started out, I had a very terrible laptop and that can barely hold like whatever it is I'm streaming. Um, so it was like kind of on and off at the time. But from when I started speedrunning all the way up to that point, it was like I think a 4 year span. Um, that brought up a lot of opportunities, and they were like, "Oh, I've seen you do like the GDQ stuff. I mean, I've seen you do like the Speedrun Coliseum stuff and like the stuff with Grand Pooh Bear and all that." And like they see that I'm getting out there, but some people were shocked, like, "How are you not a Twitch partner?" I was like, "I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just doing my thing." Like I never even thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's nice of
But
Twitch to recognize that because usually what I see is people meet all the requirements and apply like 10,000 times before they finally
mhm,
get accepted. So it's nice that they were just like, "Hey, we recognize like you deserve it. Here you go." You don't see that
yeah,
ever, so good on
I
them
did.
for once, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I did apply for partnership a couple times before that, but both of those got
Of
rejected.
course, yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I still went through that process too, like when they introduced it, the path to partner process. But yeah, just that one opportunity when it was brought up to me, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then they were like, oh yeah, let's just wait a couple weeks, but not even
Or
three
3
days.
days, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like 3 days. They just send me the email, and ironically, it lines up perfectly in July because it was 2 weeks after my birthday.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was like, oh, very late birthday present. I'm a Twitch partner, and whenever I do like stream anniversaries or something like that, I'm like, okay, I could probably combine these two together, like the birthday and Twitch partner.
Couldn't have worked out
And
better.
yeah, and ironically, it's on the 24th, and the number 24 is pretty significant to me because like I grew up a basketball fan, so I watched like sports, and Kobe Bryant was my favorite player. So uh, when I got partnered on the 24th, it just reminded me of him and the way how like his mentality is when he plays the game and stuff like that. I try to bring that onto my own play as well. I try to be that person where I'm really determined to reach a goal and stuff like that. So he was like a big inspiration to me, and just getting partner on the 24th was like the cherry on top pretty much.
It really couldn't work out any better. Wow.
Yeah.
You love to see
Yeah.
everything just fall into place like that.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Now,
So,
circling back to you like doing a speed run with Ben Schwartz, which is already
mhm.
like kind of ridiculous that that happened, but just a funny thing I remember is you were doing a stream the day before, and you kept hinting like, "Oh, something cool is gonna come out tomorrow," and then that guy you were talking about on IGN was in your chat as well. So like,
Yeah,
it was an IGN thing. I called it though. I remember
you did.
saying, yeah, because you and the guy from my GM kept going like, "Oh, guess what's happening tomorrow?" And I said, "Oh, you're gonna do a Sonic speedrun with Ben Schwartz, I bet." As a joke. I said it as a joke, but it was not a joke. It happened.
It was the prophecy, man. Like you,
The
you let it out,
prophecy.
and I remember you circled it too in
Oh,
chat.
oh
Like
yeah,
I said that.
yeah. Like when it was announced the next day on Twitter, I was like, I called this big circle. See, the prophecy is true.
Yeah, I was like, when I
Yeah.
saw that, I was like, how did he know? Like, what the hell?
Just
It was really cool
deductive
though.
reasoning. I'm just brilliant that way.
Yeah, and just like
Yeah.
throughout Ben Schwartz's names, like how could that even
Yeah.
like how is that even a thing? Like, how did he
That
know?
was a really cool video to watch. If no one here's seen it, like probably like Ben Schwartz reacts to Sonic speedrun or something.
Hmm.
Got it. It was really cool. And it was cool, like because I had known you, and I was watching this video, and I'm like, I know that guy, and he's
Yeah, it was.
playing Sonic with Ben Schwartz. What?
Yeah, I remember like when I was at the office too, I was telling my boss at the time, like, hey, I gotta go to this thing. Like, can you let me go? And then they wanted to know the specifics and everything. I was like, I don't know if I can disclose this, but
Oh,
it's my job, so I gotta say something. But I didn't give out all the beans though. And then when they found out, it's like, yeah, send the video to us. So I sent it to my boss, and then I remember like when it released, like the section that we were in, like we just kind of gathered around. They were watching my video. I was like, this is so weird, but at the same time, really cool that they're acknowledging this
Mm-hmm.
because my boss knows that I'm a huge gamer and like I've been doing a lot of speedrunning things. Like without her, like I wouldn't have been able to go to ESA that year. I wouldn't have been able to go to like the GDQs and stuff like that because she knew how passionate I was about it, and like she let me have all the time off I needed for that stuff. So, which is really rare to see like an executive do, like or like a boss. So I was like really like ready, like well lucky in that aspect. So, like she was like, "Oh, you have a speedrunning thing to go to? Like, tell me what dates, and I'll give you those days off."
Yeah, you love to hear
And
it.
yeah, so and like my position at the time, like I was a price book coordinator, which basically like handles all the items like in the stores and stuff like that, like making sure they scan properly, like they scan like the right price and all that. And I was only the person like in that position. So whenever
Mm-hmm.
I'm gone, they had to give it to somebody else who doesn't really know what they're doing. So I have to like train them the day beforehand before I leave. And whenever I get calls back from like the stores, they're like, "Man, we missed you. Like, why did you go away and all that?" And like Coop, one of my mods, I used to work with him, and he's one of the managers at the stores, and he would always tell me to come back. I'm like, I'm not coming back. like,
I
I've
had my
done
fun.
like
I'm out.
yeah, I've done what I wanted to do. I was like, I want to pursue like streaming and speedrunning. So
It's
but yeah,
cool that
like
they
they
let you do all that stuff, though. Like,
yeah.
some bosses can be really picky, some jobs can just not. So, I'm. It's just nice to hear that there are some good people out there that allow people to pursue what they want to.
Yeah, it is very rare.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with and I still remember too, like whenever like my birthday came about or something, like anytime I get a gift from my boss, it was always something Mario related. I actually have like this lamp, and like the lampshade is basically 1-1 of SMB
Ooh,
one.
that's kind of cool.
And then I have this it's like one of these like tumbler mugs, but it was like Fire Mario in a castle level. And she also gifted me like this like the castle level, like the lava shape, like a beanie of that. And then she also gave me like 8-bit Mario socks. Like anything Mario
Just
related. Like she
anything
just
Mario.
it's anything Mario.
That's fun. It's funny since you're like associated with Sonic more, especially now. Maybe I guess
Mhm.
not at the time. Well, I guess I can't say that you were the guy that dresses up as Fire Mario for any live event. So you are very
Yeah.
Mario.
Yeah, like anytime I had a Mario run going, I would always like make it a tradition of dressing up like Fire Mario. Um, ever since I did it from Calithon 2017, like up to like all the GDQs I've done, like SGDQ 2017, 2018, the GDQX race I had with Takate. And he also dressed up too.
Yeah, he
Because
was
he was like,
Luigi.
hey,
Yeah,
yeah, he wanted to
that
be
that
Fire
was
Luigi.
that was a fun run to watch. Just the Mario Bros playing Mario
Yeah,
Bros.
that was probably my favorite race that I've done in person. Like was racing Takate and SMB1, and we were both dressed up like the Mario Brothers. And which is kind of ironic too, because he's taller than me,
Hmm.
and although I think age-wise he's older than me, but even though Mario's the older brother than compared to Luigi, so it was kind of like parallel in that aspect too.
Yeah, you
And
planned it out in ahead, definitely. It was all
oh yeah.
planned to perfection.
Yeah, it was really cool, like just being able to do those races, and then unfortunately the pandemic happened, and when
Mm-hmm.
we had our race at SGDQ 2020, like that should have been in person, like that would have been so much hype, like
Yeah,
you, me, and Cosmic, and then later Picante for Lost Levels.
it's all right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever get like a run on stage, maybe, but I was technically on stage last SGDQ. I During Seth Bling's run, I was player 3, and that was like a random thing that happened. Like I wasn't going to that GDQ knowing that would happen. It just randomly became a thing. So if I never get into GDQ live on stage. At least I have that. So, and I
So,
was online, so I mean that still counts in a way. It's fine.
so when you were on stage for that Seth Bling thing, like what did you have to do like for the trick to
Oh,
work?
so like player 3 and 4, well, all the players had to hold down certain button combinations for some sort of like ace stuff,
Mm,
arbitrary code execution. I mean, I don't know. I was just told to hold down some buttons at certain times, but I mean, I kind of remember it here. So there was one that was like just four buttons. So, you just, I don't know, maybe it was like left D-pad, start and Y or something. I don't know. So like a simple four
mhm,
button press. But the thing that sucked is all of those were like you just hold it for a little bit. It's one section. So like he grabs a power up and you have to be holding those buttons so a certain value is correct. But there's this one where he's like grabbing a shit ton of power ups falling from the item storage. And
mhm,
you now ISO Freeze had it worse because he had to like do a different button combination for every single power up during that entire time, and everyone else just had to hold certain buttons. Durango AC had like pretty simple ones, but I had like the second most complicated, where I just had to hold down a complicated input, but I didn't have to like change it every time. But like
mhm.
I remember that one was like five inputs, and it was like left, right, select YB or something. So I had to hold it like that for 2 minutes straight, and
Oh
I'm
my
on
God.
stage for the first time, so I'm shaking. So I'm just like, this sucks, and my hands cramping, and I'm sweating. What a time to be alive. But
Oh my
yeah,
God.
that's basically what I had to do. So
Wow.
yeah, and it didn't work. So hopefully what I did was correct. I know I held my buttons, like I had the combinations correctly memorized, but who knows? Like if I'm up there shaking, if like it didn't register an input for a little bit and it screwed something up.
But hey,
So
you're a professional. You know what you're doing out
professional,
there.
yeah. God, I can't believe like in the like it didn't work on stage. We had to do a backup cartridge, but in like the practice room, we got it like five times in a row. And even getting that once, I can't comprehend how that works. There's so much that goes
Mhm.
into it. So I don't know. That was crazy. I I still don't know why I was chosen to be one of the players, but just funny how GDQs work out sometimes.
Oh, you never know. It's kind of like how, when you're kind of hanging out in the practice room or something, and then you just see Darby and walking down, just grabbing random people for, lunch or dinner.
Yeah. Or
So,
for
yeah, do you
battle
want to go
mode.
or battle mode? Yeah, that
Or
too. Oh my
battle mode.
God, battle mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, Darb is like the biggest trash talker.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I
like,
remember the battle mode. It was that and like this Smash ROM hack I happened to have on my Nintendo 64 EverDrive,
uh-huh.
like where all the battles took place. That was AGDQ 2020 specifically.
Yeah.
Lots of battle mode in that, I remember. Yeah, he was good and at battle mode specifically, and yeah, would talk shit if needed.
It was funny just seeing him just talk trash to people. Like it was him and I don't remember if TMR went that year. I don't think he did.
I
It
think
might
he
have
was
been a
at
previous year.
2020. I think I remember.
Was
Unless
he?
you're thinking of a different one, I think I remember him being there.
Yeah, it might have been 2020, but there
I
were
could,
there were
but I could be
instances where
wrong.
it was yeah, it was either him and Darb. They were both like the top guys
Mm-hmm.
for battle mode, and they'll just beat anybody that joins in. And
Yep.
but that was so much fun though, just being able to play battle mode with them and like just seeing like a huge group of people joining in on that as well. Like it's not speedrunning or anything, but we're a bunch of speedrunners playing like battle mode, trying to beat the hell out of each other or something.
Of course.
And it's really cool to see that, like not just with that game, but of course we had like Smash, then we had Mario Kart,
Mm.
Mario Party, just various different things.
Oh, don't bring up
Um,
Mario Party to me.
oh yeah.
Mm.
We won't go there. We won't go
We
there.
don't have to go there. But
But
yeah, God, I don't remember ever playing Mario Kart at a GDQ though. I guess I missed out on that. Why is Zelda cubed here? Someone ban him. Hey,
Oh man.
this okay, well, Blaze It took care of that, I suppose. Just inside GDQ jokes, but it died as GDQ 2022. I played a Mario Party game and won because of that number. So meme is
Yeah.
dead. I have, but yeah,
Oh man.
just some fun random GDQ things. If you've never been to a GDQ and you want to go, go because so many inside jokes and fun stuff happens, and you just have to be there to fully get the everything. It's just like going to GDQ for the first time, SGQ 2018. Like I played on emulator then, and then going to there made me realize I need to play on console. And
Mm-hmm.
best decision I've ever made in speedrunning, let's just say. Yeah,
Yeah.
that event opened my eyes to what I've been missing out on. So I'm glad I went. It really did like change my speedrunning life.
Yeah, like speaking of consoles, so I played on console like ever since I started speedrunning. But at that time I was on a CRT, and my friend Kiru, she gave me her 27-inch Sanyo CRT, and that thing is heavy. Like
I have a
I
27
remember
incher right here. It is, yeah, it's heavy as hell.
it was so heavy, and I remember like when I was trying to rearrange my setup and everything, I was trying to carry this around. I was like, I should not be carrying this by myself. Like I almost threw it
Mm-hmm.
on my back. But it was like at ESA, like when I went there, because they didn't have CRTs when we were playing on the retro consoles. They had monitors that were
Mm-hmm.
set up on stage. And I'm like, oh man, how am I going to play on the monitor? I never played on it before. And they had OSSCs, so it would make it seem like it's, playing on a CRT. And then that's when I thought to myself, maybe I should switch over to monitor. And since OSSCs at the time were pretty expensive, I decided to go with like the next best thing, which was the RetroTink. And I got the 2X Pro, and I'm still using it today. And ever since I went on monitor, I never went back to a CRT, to be honest. Even though I can still play on a CRT just fine, but when I played on monitor, it's like the convenience of being able to move monitors around because they're a lot lighter, and you can pretty much have the settings to where it's like 4:3 instead of like 16:9. Um, and then like the input delay was pretty spot on too. Like it felt like an actual CRT
Mm-hmm.
when I was playing on monitor. And yeah, that pretty much like made the decision for me that you know what, I'll play on monitor as much as I can, but if there's gonna be CRTs present, I'll play on that too. Like I can pretty much adapt to it.
Since you brought that up, I remember SGDQ 2022, like the first event after COVID and everything. Everyone's back in place. They had a lot less monitors and stuff, but something I
Hmm.
remember from like 2018, the last time I was at that hotel in that practice room, they had a lot more monitors instead of CRTs. And like they had the retro tinks set up and everything. So that was my first experience trying monitor. And like I get the appeal, but I'm like too scared to switch. Like I don't know if it's in my head, but I was like, I swear there's like one frame of input lag. I don't know. So I still have this gigantic 27-inch CRT I got off Craigslist, and I'm too scared to do anything else.
I mean, to each their own pretty much. Like, you'll be comfortable with CRTs, people will be comfortable on monitors. Some can
Mm-hmm.
do both, which
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm able to do both, but it somehow works out. But yeah, like ever since I switched over to monitor, like I would always play on those as much as I can. But then I was like, I think I remember somebody mentioning that they're trying to phase away from CRTs like in the
Mm-hmm.
future. So that's
Yeah.
why they're having all those monitor setups and stuff like that. So that's when I'm like, okay, let me try to get myself acclimated with the monitor and see how it feels. But ultimately, I like playing on the monitor. It feels pretty good. Um, and then like CRTs, like they're always going to be classic no matter what. But
Mm-hmm.
it's there's only so much you can do with the CRT, like keeping maintenance and all that. But
Yeah.
like I don't know how you would fix a CRT if something goes bad in it,
Mm-hmm.
or find anybody that can do stuff like that. and being able to lug it around to take it to that person, be like, hey, can you fix this? Like,
Yeah.
so like I still have my CRT sitting around the house. Like, I use it for like I have a Wii, so I have a Wii hooked up on there. So if I want to do like homebrew stuff, I put it on that thing. Um, but yeah, the CRT is like pretty much the bread and butter for
Hmm.
speedrunning, like when you play on console. But like once you make that shift to a different peripheral, like a monitor or something, it is definitely something to get used to. So I can understand like the fear of having that input delay, like one frame or something, like you
Yeah.
sense it. But like once you play more on it, like you'll probably get more used to it. But then again, like as long as we have CRT still around, like definitely try to use those
Yeah.
as much as we can until they completely take it away.
Yeah. If my CRT ever blows up, maybe I'll switch to monitor or something. It'd be something I'd have to figure out, research a little more, but yeah, I don't know. It's definitely different. But I mean, the quality, like the capture quality, usually looks pretty nice, and
Yeah,
I'm
I
surprised
remember.
how little delay there is.
Oh
Like
yeah,
when I'm
yeah,
saying like it's, I swear there's like 1 frame of difference, but then you think about it, there's only 1 frame of difference on a monitor. That's crazy.
yeah. So speaking of that, like Omni Gamer actually created a spreadsheet with a bunch of monitors that he tested out, and then like how much latency they have as compared to a CRT.
Hmm.
So when I was looking at that spreadsheet, he had a specific model on there, and then he also listed the prices too. So I was looking for one of the cheaper monitors that they had, and it was like a Dell 24-inch monitor, and like I remember it was color coded like a dark greenish, so if it was meant to be like, oh, it's pretty spot on with the CRT. So I ended up buying that monitor, and I got the RetroTink and everything. So I was kind of playing SMB1 on it, see how it felt, and I was doing like the wall jump room in 8.4 a couple times to see how it felt. And I remember when I was doing that, and I was trying to see if I can get it like 10 times, but I think out of those 10 times, I got it like 8, and I missed it twice. So I was like, wow, this actually feels pretty spot on. Like I'm actually getting the wall jump in 8.4.
Hmm.
And so like that was a huge factor in me purchasing a monitor was Omni Gamer spreadsheet. It was very helpful. He has a bunch of monitors listed out, and it gives you like all the milliseconds of how much delay it has. And he also describes like on the bottom of the sheet, I think, like how much CRT input delay has. So you just kind
Hmm.
of combine those two together, and then that's how you get the proper input delay for that monitor. So that's how I was able to kind of transition from a CRT to a monitor in that aspect. So it worked out pretty well, and I'm still using a monitor today.
Yeah, definitely something to look into. Uh, it's probably easier to find monitors than CRTs nowadays too. It took me forever to find this CRT, and I had to use Craigslist. I don't know if I'd recommend using Craigslist if you don't have to, because I did get scammed once.
Oh
Like
yeah, that
I did
yeah.
buy a different TV. They were both only $20, so it's not like it was insane money, but yeah, the first one I picked up didn't even work, and it was like, well, but this one I lucked out on, and it was fate because the person that posted this when they sent me pictures of the CRT working because I requested it after getting scammed, uh, the footage they showed was of SMB1 loaded on it, and I didn't ask for SMB1, so it was just like, well, sold.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, the only problem is I had to drive like 45 minutes to pick it up, but hey, it
Oh well.
it works. I like it, and it had component. My old CRT. It's also a flat screen, which I liked. It
Mhm.
it mimics like the CRTs they had at GDQ, but my older one only had like composite, and not only that, it only had one video input. So like SNES, I couldn't get both audio channels. So super old. So I'm glad I got this one that not only had all of that, it has like four different hookups, and then it has component as well. So I was able to get all my consoles modded, and it looks really good on my CRT.
Yeah, speaking of CRTs, I remember I had this like smaller CRT. It was like a, I think it was 13 inches, and it was like a curved screen too. So my mistake was I bought it from eBay,
Mm,
and like on the picture it looked great and everything, but when I received it, the right side of it was like the piece was broken off.
mm.
And I was like telling the guy like, "Hey, I got a broken TV here." I was like, and then he was like saying, "I didn't send it like that." So it might have been like the
Through
packaging,
shipping,
like
yeah.
it wasn't packaged properly. So I still have that CRT sitting around, but it only has like kind of similar to like your old one where there's only like one
Hmm.
video output.
Yeah.
Um, so like I remember taking it with me to Calithon 2017. Like I drove there because it was like an 8 hour drive.
Mm.
And I was like, you know what? Since I'm driving, I'll take the CRT with me. So it was kind of convenient that I had it. But I haven't used it since. And it also has like a DVD player in it too.
Hmm.
So it's like one of those DVD TV combos. Um, and then the CRT that Kidoru gave me, it was like a much larger TV, and it was a flat screen. It played really well. It looked really, really good on component as well. Um, and then also like speaking of modding consoles, when I had the Famicom, the AV Famicom, I was thinking about modding my console. So I was like talking to Cosmic and see who we got it from, and it was like the Tim Worthington board. So I remember getting that board, and I brought my Famicom with me to AGDQ 2017 at the time, and Eldonia, um, who knew how to mod consoles, he was like, "Hey, you want me to mod that for you?" And I was like, "You know how to do that stuff?" So
Mm-hmm.
I gave him my Famicom and my the parts for it, and he modded it for me. And then when I got it back in the mail, and I plugged it in to my CRT, it looks so good. I was like, man, I'm so glad
Yep.
I got this modded. And and then when I got the Genesis, because the one I had, like it doesn't power on anymore, so I had to get a new one. So I got this Model 1 Genesis, and I didn't realize that they natively output component.
Mm-hmm.
But the one I had, it actually had S video on it. So I have like a S video modded Genesis. So in case I use a TV that has like S video, I can use that. But like when I learned about like native component, I felt so dumb after that. I was like, man, why didn't I just get
Yeah.
the cable and just
Like
get a
the
regular Genesis?
SNES also has that.
Yeah,
So
that too.
so I got my SNES and Nintendo 64 off of eBay, and luckily they both like came. The SNES is a little finicky. The cartridge slot seems to you have to like jiggle it around a bit, and
Hmm.
sometimes like some cartridges don't work. But Nintendo 64 is really good. But anyway, I'm glad the SNES just natively outputted it, so I didn't have to mod it. But I did have to mod my Nintendo 64 for RGB because it doesn't. But shoutouts to the SNES for, I guess, just that fourth gen consoles native having native component on their first models. Very helpful.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like even though S video doesn't look as great for some of the older stuff, but it does its job sometimes.
It
But
looks
ultimately,
compared to composite, it looks fantastic.
oh yeah, yeah, that's
So
for sure.
it's not too bad. It just the checkerboarding's a bit annoying.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I think my 64 and my GameCube, I use S video for those. But hopefully someday I'll be able to get those modded in the
Hmm.
future. Um, and then obviously, the SNES having like native component was really nice. But the way how I have my setup right now, like they're kind of spread apart each other, so like I can't really bring my component cable to over
Yeah.
to where the SNES is. So I'll use S video for that one, which is fine. I mean, it doesn't look as different, but just having the proper setup for speedrunning in particular, like having modded consoles to have the clear pictures, you can see the pixels more.
Hmm.
Um, like you're able to get whatever tricks that you're working on like a lot easier that way. Um, like even we started out with composite like with SMB1,
Hmm.
and then you just kind of slowly see the change, like how we started off as runners
Yep.
to like how we are today. Um, that's like the really neat thing. Like it's always an evolution with speedrunning.
Yep.
Like you start off one way, like you know, in your case you started off with emulator. I pretty much started up straight up console, but I didn't
Hmm.
have an EverDrive to practice with. So just seeing the journeys of how it came about to where we are today, it's really neat. And also seeing like other speedrunners come up from like back then even to now, and just knowing that we had a hand in that was really cool.
Yeah. Forgot what I was gonna talk about. Um. Oh yeah, I have this tweet I remember where I had a screenshot of SMB1 from one of my earliest runs, and then a screenshot of that same area, but with all my like new modern stuff. So you could see like the horrible composite capture with the Dazzle capture card compared to the RGB modded AV Famicom with like a proper component capture card, the StarTech. It looks so much better. But
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to if you're just speedrunning. You don't need all of that fancy stuff. But damn, does it look good though? If you really want
Yeah.
to, it just the thing that sucks is it costs so much goddamn money.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember when I was trying to revamp my stuff, like it cost an arm and a leg.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, once you're invested in it, you know, you don't
Yep.
even think about that too much.
Yep. I'm definitely
But
invested. I really
yeah,
want a Genesis myself too, but you have to get a Model 1 so it has the native component like you said, and then you need a different uh retrovision cable for the Genesis. The Nintendo SNES one doesn't work.
mm.
So so much more to buy, but I really do want a Genesis sometime.
Actually, speaking of that, I know Joey Baby. He uses a Model 2 Genesis, which is
Hmm.
the first Genesis I got like as a kid, and that also natively outputs component.
Oh, does it? I've
Yeah.
always been told like, oh, get a Model 1. You want a Model 1. What's the difference?
Well, with Model 1, I don't think there's really much of a difference, but like with the Model 1, it has a like a headphone jack in there, but
Mm,
I never really used it.
no, yeah.
Um, Other than that, it's bigger, I guess.
Hmm.
It looks cool, but the Model 2 is more like a smaller size.
Like a
But it,
slim.
yeah, it's a Genesis Slim pretty much.
Yeah.
But it still does its job. Like it can go component easily.
Okay, that's good to know. I didn't actually know that. I've always heard like to get the Model 1 because I thought that was the only one that did native component, but I'm happy to be wrong if that means there's more options out there now.
Yep, there's definitely more options. And then like with the HD retrovision cable, like you need to have an extension for it to plug into the Model 1. For the Model 2, you can just plug it straight in.
Oh,
Um, and it also works for the Genesis 3 model, which is like a lot smaller, but nobody uses a Model
yeah,
3.
no one likes that one.
Yeah, like I have it sitting around somewhere, but I never really use it. I just remember buying it out of Swap Meet for like $20, and
Hmm.
I just have it there. But like I think I may have brought it a few times, but I think when I went to GDQs, I always brought my Model 1 with me. But yeah, the Model 3, I usually take it to like any local places. Like if they're hosting like some kind of video game event, I'll just take it there with me for convenience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, like other than that, there aren't really various differences between all three models. But they all natively output component.
All right, that's good. Um, Speaking of Genesis, I know we talked about like your Mario history, but you have a lot of Sonic history. I don't think we've touched on that at all, so we should go
Yeah,
through that, right? I mean, that is in your
yeah,
name. Maybe it's
yeah.
important.
Yeah, so the Sonic speedruns, like even though I started off as a Mario runner, like I didn't start speedrunning Sonic until 2017. However, in 2016, Darbian was doing the Sonic 2
That was a
12-hour
12.
challenge.
Yeah, okay. I do
Yeah, so
remember.
when he did that, I actually did play Sonic 2 for a little bit, but I didn't stick with it. Um, because I don't know, didn't like the spin dashing too much at the
Mm.
time. But 2017, I started Sonic 1, and when I was watching the glitches for that game, I wasn't really a big fan of it at the time because it was either like frame perfect, pixel perfect, or sometimes both.
Mm.
And they were really tough to get. So I was like, okay, let me try glitchless then. And I started running Sonic 1 glitches for a while, and I was doing fairly good in that game too, like based on what I knew at the time. And I think a year later, when Mike89 or Sega Junkie, when he did his Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 and Knuckles runs at SGDQ 2018, and I had a bit of a chat with him, and he was asking me like, when will I run Sonic 3 and Knuckles?
Mm.
And I told him right when I get home from GDQ. And when I started running S3K, I enjoy that game a lot. Like it's my favorite game of all time, my favorite speedrun of all time. Uh, Whenever I get to showcase Sonic 3 and Knuckles, it's always really neat because I get to showcase my favorite game of like ever.
Mm-hmm.
Even though people knew me from running Mario or like Sonic 1 or whatever. And like around that time, I was kind of jumbling between those three games, thinking like, okay, which one can I be like competitively good at, like to get a top time? And I started with Sonic 1 glitchless, and I kept on bringing my time down quite a bit. And then it was around 2021, like I got like a mid 14-minute in-game time, and I'm like thinking to myself, I can probably push a record in this. So 2chan was teaching me a few strats. Like she taught me how to do bubbleless in Lab 3. She also taught me the boss skip in Lab 3 as well. So those are like pretty huge time saves in that level. And I was trying to get that down in my run, and I was bringing my time down to like a 14:20 something, and then I think I was tied for second for a bit. And then I'm just within striking distance from world record because world record at the time was 14:15 in game time. And it was like mid-October. I had a really good run going, and I just remember Joey rated me that day, and then they were like, I just see like in the corner of my eyes, like, oh shit, he's on a run. Like I'm gonna keep quiet here. And I got to final zone, and I ended up beating the record by 1 second. It was like a 14:14. First time I ever got a world record in a Sonic game. Uh, by far my biggest accomplishment in speedrunning, just getting that record. And I just remember I popped off and I was like shaking too, like my
Mm-hmm.
hands were shaking. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to mess this up. And then when I got the record, it was like a huge relief. And then I think a couple weeks after that, I improved it by 4 seconds, and which is still my PB today, 14:10. And I held it for 6 months during that time, and then Flower beat my time by 1 second. And then shortly after that, TNT, who was like one of the best IL speedrunners out there for Sonic, he ended up getting the record recently,
Mm.
but he never posted it on speedrun.com. I think he's trying to get sub 14 before
Oh,
he
okay.
uploads it. So chances are he'll probably be the first person to get sub 14, although I've been wanting to get sub 14 for a while as well, but
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been motivated to play the game.
Yeah.
But then like I was playing Sonic 3 Knuckles, I was really enjoying that run, and like when I started, um my time was like 1 hour something, and like I didn't know a lot of the tricks at the time. And then when I was starting to learn the tricks and I was trying to bring my time down to like a 50 something, that was like a 40 something, and then I was trying to get sub 40 for a while. And then I finally got like a 39, I think it was like a 39, 36 or something like that. So I was like, okay, sub 40 run. I could probably do this more. And um, I was kind of on and off with the grind for a bit. I was trying to play Sonic 2 for a while, see if I can get like a 15-minute time. And ironically, that was during the Ben Schwartz thing.
Mm-hmm.
I played Sonic 2 again, and I got like a 15:55, which was my first 15-minute time in that game. And then I kind of stopped playing that for a while again. So
IGN
it
like
was
uploaded one of those runs too, right? Like
Yeah.
aside from the Ben Schwartz thing, yeah, there was like just one of your speed runs because I know they would just post speed runs, just straight up other people's,
Y- Yeah.
broadcast and whatever that's about. But yeah, I remember seeing one of yours on there.
Yeah, they showcased one of my 16-minute times.
Oh, okay.
And it was literally a few days after that I got to 15. I was like, man, why didn't they take this one?
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's whatever, things happen. It's kind of similar to Katie's story where she got the Sonic Adventure 2 world record after Summoning Salt's video
Like
came
one
out.
hour later
One
or
hour later,
something. Yeah.
it was just like that with me, like getting a PB in Sonic 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then they uploaded my 16-minute runtime instead. So I'm like, whatever, it's fine.
Oh well.
And so for Sonic 2, like when I came back to it, I didn't play it for like 3 years on that time. And then I came back and I got that PB. And then getting the Sonic 1 world record was pretty cool. I kind of want to get back on the grind at some point now that TNT's back into it. So I kind of want to
Mm-hmm.
see if, who would be the first one to get the sub 14 time.
Yep.
But at the same time, though, like Sonic 3 and Knuckles, that's been my main game for a while now. And I recently got a PB in that one. It was like a 3404 just recently. And I'm still improving in that game. And also, like around that time, I was learning how to do trilogy speedruns. So I did like the classic Sonic trilogy. Um, and then I also did it for some marathons too. And then started to learn like Sonic 3D Blast. What else? Sonic Mania. I learned a run of that, and I'm starting to learn some 3D Sonic games too. I actually learned, even though we don't really talk about it these days, Sonic 06.
Oh no.
I actually learned how to speedrun Sonic Story for that one, um, which surprisingly is actually a very fun run. Like
Mm.
playing it casually is abysmal, of course,
Yeah.
but the
I have
speedrun
only
is actually
heard
really
horror
cool.
stories, so.
Yeah, like the speed run to that game is actually really cool. So I actually learned that recently with JSR because he was doing that for his AVGN
Yeah.
trials, and he asked me if I wanted to learn Sonic 06 with him. And I was like, yeah, I was actually planning to learn that at some point, so perfect opportunity to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
But ever since I learned that run, I pretty much knew that I'm more of a 2D Sonic runner than a 3D Sonic runner. Like I don't know how 3D Sonic runners do it, but
Mm.
like the tricks that they pull off is amazing, like especially with like being in the 3D plane and all that. But I could just do a lot of those tricks in the 2D style. I would rather stick with that. And but yeah, like a lot of the people that watch my streams, like it's mostly for Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
Like they like to watch the Sonic speedruns. And but still to this very day, I haven't ran a Sonic game at a mainline GDQ yet.
Mm.
Um, I have ran it at hotfix before, but I never did a mainline GDQ for Sonic. It was only Mario.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping maybe the future GDQ or whatever, I can get a Sonic run in there and actually showcase, hopefully Sonic 3 and Knuckles, because that's the one game that I really want to showcase.
Yeah.
Um, Even though like Joey and Zaxxon did their race in AGDQ 2020, which I was on the couch for, but that was probably like one of the few games that I know a lot about, especially with running it quite a bit. And yeah, I would like to do that for future GDQ. Like I've always done Mario runs, and I'm still trying to get that Sonic run in there. Like
Mm-hmm.
even Sonic One glitchless too. Like that would be another run I would like to do as well. Like since I held the record in it, um, like the strats have definitely changed since the last time it was shown.
Yep.
When 2chan did her run, so that would be like another cool showcase to do.
Yeah, I mean, SuperSonic has to run a Sonic game at GDQ. Like,
Mm.
it's in the name. Like, you can't just not have that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It was funny you were saying that, like, 3D Sonic games look really difficult because I think 2D Sonic games look really difficult. Like, you were saying, like, Sonic 1 glitches have, or like multiple frame perfect or pixel perfect, both. And then
Mm-hmm.
I've had a little bit of experience with Sonic 2. I did a 12-hour challenge, or yeah, 12-hour challenge of that. And some of that's already ridiculous, and then like world record. strats now are even more ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sonic 3 Knuckles especially looks like the hardest. So, like that all looks insane to me already. Like I can't even imagine 3D games. I guess I haven't seen enough of those, but yeah, just watching the 2D ones, I don't know how people do it. Like those tricks look insane.
Well, speaking of 2D Sonic games, like in terms of like how hard the tricks are, right now Sonic 2 is definitely the hardest run to do now.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with all the new developments that came about. Like there's level wraps in Chemical Plant 1. There's like a strat in Chemical Plant 2 where you can save like a few seconds. There's a run killing strat in Casino Night 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's like a Taz zip in Hilltop 1. There's like a mini zip in Hilltop 2 in which you can potentially die in. Um, and then there's like a level wrap found in Oil Ocean 1 recently by Joey that saves like, I think 10 or 15 seconds. So around the time like, when I guess when I started running Sonic 2 and all that, like the world record at the time was like 14:58. Now it's
Mm-hmm.
down to 12:59.
Yeah, that's so low.
Yeah, and like Eandis is the current world record holder, and they're still finding new time saves for Sonic 2, and they can
Mm-hmm.
be brought down to, I want to say, it can probably be brought down to the 12.2x range now,
Jeez.
and it is by far the hardest Sonic speedrun to
Oh
date.
yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
even though starting off, Sonic 2 is actually one of the easier ones to get into, but optimizing it or trying to get like the top times, it's definitely the hardest right now, like behind Sonic, or like, no, Sonic 3 and Knuckles is hard too, but not as hard as Sonic 2 right now.
Oh yeah. It's funny that like Sonic 2 is the easiest to get into because, the spin dashing can be a bit hard to learn when Sonic 1 didn't have that yet. So it was more just basic platforming. Sounds like it'd be easier to learn.
Yeah, with Sonic 2, like you don't necessarily have to go for the harder strats right away.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I learned Sonic 2, the first strats I learned was Oil Ocean 2, Metro 3. Those were it.
Yep.
And then eventually the Wing Fortress strat. So those are like the only three things that I learned when I started Sonic 2. So it could be easier that way. But once you start learning like the Metro 2 rap, which I think is probably the easier of all the tricks. And then there's Metro 1 that was discovered recently. Um, let's see what else. There's like a few other tricks that like you don't necessarily have to go for, but you can still get like a 15-minute time in it. You can still get a 14 like using a lot of the old strats too, but
Mm.
if you mix them with the new ones, you can still potentially get like a 14 5x or something like that. But like with Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I'm still kind of mixing in the old strats with the new strats, but I'm still throwing in the new strats in there. Um, it is hard for a lot of them, especially Monitor Clip and Lava Reef 1. That's probably like
Mm.
the biggest run killer in Sonic 3 and Knuckles because we do a lot of pause buffering in Sonic games to catch the correct frames. And for Monitor Clip in particular, there's like visual cues that we have, and there's like three pauses that you got to do for each visual cue. And if you miss one of them, you have to try to like mash the pause button just to catch that frame. And my mashing is not that great, so I can never catch the correct frame. I'm always like a frame off from it. But when I'm watching folks like Joey and Super Boom Fan and Yandis, like how they pause so quickly, it's pretty mind-boggling to me. Like they can like mash that fast. And there's like a lot of great mashers. Like Cosmic is another great masher. Um, then there's like Arcus and like a lot of those folks. But to being able to mash the pause button on a Genesis 6 button controller is a
Mm.
little tough because like the pause button's a little like bumpy.
It's like
I
a
think I might.
giant like lion, right?
Yeah, so it's like I have my 6 button controller right here, so
Yeah,
like
like
but
yeah, I
yeah,
can't
push the
imagine
pause
trying to
button.
mash that tiny plastic piece.
Yeah, so like during that time, like this was like sometime last year. I actually reached out to these folks called Abnormally Rectangular forgot what the last thing stood for, but it was like ARC. I guess rectangular controllers. So they do like hitbox style controllers. And I remember watching TGH's stream, and he usually streams like Zelda and Pokemon stuff. And he had this controller. It was like a box, and he had like a bunch of buttons on it, and he had like the WASD for the D-pad, and then just a bunch of other buttons on the side. And I was like thinking to myself, what if I get like a Genesis controller like that? So I reached out to them, and they made a custom controller for me where I can use it on my Sega Genesis.
Hmm.
So it's a 3 button controller, and I can use that for like nailing the tricks and whatnot. But the only thing I'm not good at yet is spin dashing on that thing,
Mm.
because you do piano roll technique for spin dashing,
Yeah.
but I usually run my thumb across the A, B, and C buttons. So
Oh,
I had
like I do
to,
on the NES for like swipe
yeah,
jumps. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I need to practice how to do spin dashing on that thing, but I know how to pull out the tricks easier on the hitbox controller than I can on the controller. So it's kind of like a balancing thing now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can I spin dash properly on the hitbox? But I remember like when I was at the Speedrun Coliseum in September, and I did the Classic Sonic Trilogy run. They had a donation incentive where like I think it's like every $50 or something, I switch controllers.
Hmm.
So I'm switching between the hitbox and the 6 button. So I had to like plug in like the controllers, like swapping them each time like a donation came in. And I it was something to get used to, but
Mm-hmm.
I still managed to pull off a pretty good run, even though I messed up like Marble Garden a bunch of times. But yeah, just being able to transition from holding a controller to having like a hitbox on my lap, that was that was crazy. But yeah, ever since I had that controller, I've been thinking about getting one for the NES as well.
Mm.
Um, I think JSR has a custom made controller where I think the B and A buttons are like the Sanwa buttons on the hitbox controller, and then he has like a D-pad shape,
Hmm.
so he can like do like the piano roll technique on that. So I don't know who makes them for the NES. I know there's like a different person for that, but maybe one of these days I'll get one for the NES and probably play SMB1 on that thing.
That's got to be interesting. I don't know if I
Yeah,
could like switch to a controller that different.
yeah. I think it's like for me, like with SMB1 in particular, like I have trouble getting flagpole glitch.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, if I had a hitbox style controller or something similar of that nature, I could probably pull it off that way,
Yeah.
because for some reason I can pull off tricks easier on a different controller than like holding a normal controller. So I think it's just a like a learning curve or something for me, that if I want to try to get flagpole glitch or something, or blaze it in 4-2, then I can probably do like a different controller grip for it.
Mm-hmm. Like that,
But
those controllers, like you use your fingers, right, to like run
mhm,
and jump. When like I'm used to
yeah.
the thumbs, so like my muscle memory is with the thumbs. But I can see like back when I played on emulator, like using your fingers, you can like it's easier to know when you push the keys rather than the buttons for like flagpole
Mhm.
glitch when you have to push B and A so close together.
Yeah.
Like you kind of just get the feel for it on controller, but you could kind of like maybe like hear it, feel it a little better hitting keys on the right frames.
Mhm.
They're not as mushy, so I can see that being a little help more helpful, I guess, but at least with my muscle memory, I don't know if I could switch that easily. But yeah, I can definitely see it being easier for something like that. I don't think I've ever seen a controller quite like that being used for on console though, not for the NES.
Yeah, so like on the Genesis, they had, I don't know what they had to do in order to get the controller to work, but it's like whatever the circuit board they use for like the controllers, they had to kind of mimic that so they can put it into the hitbox.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got it, I remember testing it out, and it felt pretty spot on too. Like it doesn't have LNR inputs either. They disabled that. So you can't do like any like shenanigans like,
Mm-hmm.
with SMB1 does with LNR inputs.
Yep.
So those are disabled. So like if I try to push both of those buttons together, like if I was playing Sonic, he's just standing still. Same with up and down. Like it can't do that either. Um, so like even though like on the D-pad they actually have like diagonal directions on the Genesis controller, like in my mind I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna do this on a WASD style, I need to get used to doing diagonals on that. So I was kind of practicing it a little bit, and it took me maybe a couple of days to get used to that, and especially like trying to get the tricks down, like the level wraps and the screen wraps and such. Um, Especially with a different grip too, because like have the controller like this instead of like holding it like this. Um, so that was like a big learning curve as well. I haven't been using the controller lately, which I should, but as of now, like the only thing that's holding me back is the spin dashing because I need to have like really good spin dashes
Mm-hmm.
because there's like the 6 tap spin dash where you get like 100% speed, but as long as you release the input on the last frame, basically. So if I don't do that, then I'll get like a slightly less percentage. I think it's like a 96%, even though you do like 6 tap spin dash. So there's like different percentages depending on how much you rev it up. Um, so if I can just get that down, then I'll be able to transition over to that controller because like I can pretty much land all the tricks on that thing. It's just the spin dashing that's my issue. Um, so one of these days I'll probably get it to doing that, but in the meantime, I'm just using the 6 button Genesis controller
Mm-hmm.
for the time being.
Yeah, 6 button Genesis controller. That's a lot of buttons. You don't see that in most controllers now.
Yeah, like with Sonic speedruns, it only uses the 3 button,
Mm-hmm.
but I mainly use a 6 button for comfortability, really, because the 3 button's like a little bulkier, but the buttons are I don't know how to put it exactly, but it feels better on the 6 button in my opinion,
Did you
especially with the D-pad too.
did you say like it only uses three for Sonic, or do like
Yeah,
so like the top buttons don't work at all, or
no, it doesn't.
oh, because I thought like you do a 6 tap spin dash, you could just like rub your thumb over all six and it just works
No,
every time. Ah,
no, it doesn't
damn.
work like that, unfortunately.
Ah, everything I know is wrong then. Damn,
Yeah,
that
so even
sucks.
yeah, even if I use a 6 button controller, it's just mostly treated as a 3 button, like for Sonic games. So yeah, the eight like if you try to push the X, Y, Z buttons on there, like it doesn't do anything. Like
Mm.
no inputs are being registered.
So only certain games use those buttons then.
Yeah, so mainly fighting games use it, like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, those games. Ironically, I did speedrun Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, and let's see what else uses it. Yeah, pretty much all the like the fighting games use the extra buttons on top. But a lot of the games are majority like 3 buttons.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know much about the Genesis. I'd like to get one and learn more, but yeah, I always thought like the 6 button had like used the buttons more often than not, but guess not. I thought it would have
Yeah,
just mimicked the button under it if it wasn't set up for like a 6 button game or whatever.
yeah, it's only like a select few. Like mostly fighting games are like well known for 6 button layouts. But like when did speedruns, like the only speedrun that I used all 6 buttons was for Mortal Kombat 3. Um, and then every other like Genesis speedrun I've done is on 3 buttons.
Okay. Since you brought up Mortal Kombat, like what are some other runs you've done that we haven't talked about? Like maybe not Mario or Sonic related?
So other runs I've done, um, back in like 2016, I actually did a run of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, but this was
Mm,
on the Sega Saturn version, and it was like a Japanese version, so I had to make I don't know what it was, but I think it's like I have my Saturn right here. It's like an action replay thing that you put on there, like sort of like a Game Shark, but not really. But you'd have that, and then you can actually use Japanese CDs on the US console.
mm,
So I learned Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and there was a character named Maria on there, and she's only exclusive on the Saturn.
mm.
And it is a very short run too. It's like less than 8 minutes.
Oh.
But there's like some pretty crazy out of bounds stuff you can do in there. And there's like this one trick that she has where you go out of bounds and you have to go all the way up the tower, and there's like nothing around. Like you're just kind of going upward, and you reach the final boss in like 7 or 8 minutes. And ironically, Josh, Red Ninja Josh, he was the one that had me run that. But I didn't run it for like a long time after that. Like I just kind of stopped. Other games was like Ninja Gaiden, as I mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
with Andrew G. I also learned the second game too, which I actually like a lot more than the first one. Um, and then I also ran Animaniacs on the Genesis. Held a world record on that for a while. Um, and then I also ran Chip and Dale 1 and 2 on the NES. I also ran DuckTales. What else did I run? I'm probably an obscure NES game, Captain Skyhawk, which is like a shmup. Um, so like a rail shooter pretty much. And I did that for a good while. I was like within striking distance of the record for that game too, but I didn't carry on with that afterwards. Um, what else did I do? Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 and Streets of Rage 2, Streets of Rage 3. I think those are it as far as I know. I'm pretty sure there's more that I'm not remembering, but I have done
You've done a
quite a
lot.
few.
It sounds like hard to keep
Yeah,
track at that point. However,
yeah.
Tsunami Cat wants to know when you start running Bayou Billy, though. When's
Oh
that?
God, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I remember watching Darby and run that. I didn't quite understand. It seems really hard, just even casually. You would know. You played it recently, right?
I played it casually, and I don't understand how hitboxes work in
Okay,
that game.
okay, yeah. That's what it
Um,
looked like.
yeah. So I don't think I'll run that, but I mean I played it casually. At least I can say that. But
Yeah.
there has been some games where I like playing it casually, but also consider speedrunning it. One of those, for example, is actually Super Metroid.
Mm-hmm.
I actually did a 12-hour challenge of that with Kiryu and then some other people. But it took us the entire 12 hours to actually beat the game.
Mm.
So we never actually got a chance to do a run.
Yeah.
But that is actually one game I actually considered running, but um, it was actually really intimidating for me because of how the button layout is for that. Because you have a dash button on there, and then you have like the jump, and then
Mm-hmm.
changing the missiles and stuff like that, and then the LNR buttons to do the arm pumping.
It does seem very
So
complicated.
yeah, so like when I was trying to play it one day, like I had like this claw grip on the SNES controller. I'm like,
Mm.
this does not feel comfortable. I don't know how Super
No.
Metroid runners do this. So that was like one game I actually wanted to learn for the longest time, but decided not to in the long run. Um, oh yeah, then I ran Mega Man 2. That was
Mm-hmm.
another game. I did come back to that for a short stint, but I didn't stick with it, obviously.
Did you do
But
normal or difficult?
normal.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
the
tried
American
difficult.
version.
Yeah, I actually tried difficult, but I couldn't get past like the Robot Master stages.
Mm-hmm. They do have a lot more
Um,
health.
yeah, a lot more health, and then shots take a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
But like I do want to learn another Mega Man game at some point. Like Mega Man 6 is probably one of the more obscure Mega Man games that I've been wanting to learn. Even though their slide canceling is a little weird, but I was actually interested in running that. And then like I've always enjoyed the Battle Network series for Mega Man. So that's like one that's on my radar that I want to learn at some point. Um, Particularly Battle Network 2. And since the Legacy Collection is coming out, I think in a couple months, I plan on getting that and then probably learn the game, like learning the speedrun on there. Um, and then like there's probably like some other games like Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5, which is completely out of my element because I'm more known for platformers for speedrunning. But Resident Evil 5 I've been wanting to do that with Japsy Man, like a co-op speed run with him. And he's not really much of a speedrunner either. Like, uh, he normally does speedrunning like whenever I'm around or something. Like, um, he's mostly like the casual player, but whenever he does speedruns with me, like it's a completely different level. So one of these days we'll probably learn Resident Evil 5 together.
You guys
Um,
do have the co-op SMP1 world record, like at the same time, right?
we do, yeah. Like we still have it,
Hmm.
surprisingly.
Well, it's hard to get two
And
people together, so.
yeah, that's true. I know that I've seen some people do like the emulator net play for that.
Hmm.
But with me and him, like the fact that he was able to learn the run in such a short time was pretty crazy. Like with him not being a speedrunner really,
Hmm.
but he was like he was talking to me one day. He was like, "Man, like if we ever do these speedruns, like I gotta be sure to bring my A game for you," because he was always like thinking that I'm gonna expect something or whatnot. I'm
Yeah.
like, nah, just be yourself, man.
Hmm.
Like just have fun with it. Like I don't have any expectations with that. Like that would just make the experience a lot worse. So I just told him, just be yourself. We'll learn the strats together, and I think we're gonna get together again pretty soon and try to see if we can improve the record a little bit. Like we're gonna try to do small only
Ooh,
for that game.
that's got to be hard.
Yeah, we do have save states set up, so we're gonna be practicing those. Because I think I was the one that was Fire Mario for that one, and he was Small Luigi.
Hmm.
So we're gonna try to see if we can do that just small only and see how bad it can get. Um, but yeah, like there's like a few other speedruns that I've been wanting to learn as well. I think one of them was Journey to Silius on the NES.
Mm.
Um, it was one of the games that I watched Toad run at the previous GDQs, and it looks like a really cool run. Like the music is really cool.
Oh yeah, I like the
Um,
music in that.
yeah, so I'm like, I want to run that game someday, but I don't know when because I'm always stuck with either Sonic or Mario.
Yep.
Mostly Sonic, but I've been trying to branch out with speedrunning a little bit, trying to see if I can get more games in there. And just recently, I've been playing Streets of Rage 2. Like it's kind of interesting to see like even though there's different genres out there for video games, you can pretty much speedrun anything as
Hmm.
long as you like have a goal set for it.
Yep.
Um, like you never think of speed running fighting games, like how can you do that, just try to beat opponents as fast as possible,
Like
but
speedrunning racing games makes no sense, but
yeah.
then you see Mario Kart 64 and it's like, hell yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
that
You can
too,
do
like
anything. Anything works.
yeah, and especially with things that you don't even think of, like seeing in a speedrun sense, like MMOs for example. Like there's always so many different things you can do in an MMO, but if you like set a goal like, oh, let's just beat this big guy and call it a speedrun,
Yep.
you know that's doable. Like you could just speedrun anything. Like
You can.
although yeah, like although in my case, like I've been pretty much known for Mario and Sonic speedrunning, but when people see me play like other games, like they don't expect
They're
it
like,
from me.
what are you doing?
Yeah, it's like you're running Mortal Kombat? Like what? Like why are you running this? But
Hmm.
for me, it's like I kind of want to try different things and see what I can do,
Yeah.
and like the experience in it. But like whatever game I end up running, there's always like a welcoming community that I find there. Like when I came into the Mortal Kombat scene, um, I met some of the OG Mortal Kombat runners from like 2010 and some,
Ooh.
I don't know, some other years. Like the Combat King, for example, he's like he ran it on actual cabinet
Mm.
and he set like world records on that thing. So I got to talk with him. Then he saw that I ran the Genesis version of it because there's like different versions of
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat, and I mostly run the Genesis version because that's the one I grew up with and that's the one I know mostly. And then I just remember like we were talking about it, and then there's another runner by the name of Tenka. He's like an Australian-based runner. Basically play on the arcade version, and just getting to know the top level players from different communities is really cool.
Yep.
And then like you get to befriend them and you get to meet them in person as well if they go there. So just kind of get myself out there to be like, oh, he's just a Sonic runner. What is he gonna do with this game? But at the same time, I try to prove people wrong that yeah, I can run this game too. I can run Streets of Rage 2. I can run Mortal Kombat 3. I can run Animaniacs. Like, throw any game at me, I'll probably run it. Even Pokemon too.
Yep. Anyone can
That's
run
another.
anything.
Yeah,
Just give it some time.
yeah. Like especially Pokemon as well.
Hmm.
Like an RPG game that's like who knows how many hours, but for that speedrun in particular, like Red and Gold, those like Gen 1 and Gen 2, I need to have notes open for that
Hmm.
because I can't remember everything. And I see Slimtor in chat saying Sonic
Hmm.
Spinball. No.
No. Like, no. Yeah, I always have notes open for even runs I know very well because it's just nice to have to know for sure what you're doing.
Yeah,
So
like
never any shame in having notes open. Like some world record holders just have notes open
mhm.
for even routing stuff, especially if it's like a super long run. Pokemon
Yeah.
runs fall under that umbrella. Those are super long runs.
Yeah, especially with Pokemon Gold, for example, like it's actually my favorite Pokemon game, and like Gen 2 is my favorite as well. And normally they would use like Totodile as a starting Pokemon, but I was looking through the guides one day and I saw that somebody did a Cyndaquil route, and Typhlosion is my favorite Pokemon.
Hmm.
So I tried to do a Cyndaquil run, and it is actually pretty fun. Like even though it is a lot to absorb in, because it is roughly like a 3.5 hour run, but my PB is like a 4 hour 45 minute or something like that. But it is actually pretty interesting to see like how well thought out these guides are. Like they even tell you the damage values, like what what could happen like in a bad situation, like what the backup strats are.
Hmm.
Um, so it's nice having those kind of notes, but remembering them, it's gonna take me a while to
Oh
try to
yeah.
remember everything.
Hmm.
But as far as like when Slimtorm mentioned Sonic Spinball, there is a category called Sonic 8 where you basically play like 8 Sonic games in one speed run. So it's like a compilation run.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Sonic Spinball is one of those games, but I think one of these days I may end up learning the glitch category for that, so I don't have to play through the entire game.
Hmm.
I'll just beat the game in like 10 minutes or something and be happy with it. But I have been wanting to run the Sonic 8 for a while, but Sonic Spinball is one of the few games that I need to learn for that.
Oh, what
Um,
what games are in that run?
it's Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles, which they separate.
Okay.
Um, and then CD, Spinball, 3D Blast, and Mania.
It's interesting that all of those are like Genesis and then Mania.
Yeah, Mania is just in there because it's considered like a 2D Sonic game.
Yeah,
So
like it fits. It's just funny how later that is in comparison to everything else.
yeah, yeah, like they could have made it into the Sonic 7, but they're like, oh, Sonic 8, just throw Mania in there and then separate 3 and Knuckles.
Hmm.
Um, and then Sonic CD, they can either use the 2011 version or the 93 version.
Mm.
Um, and then like I guess speaking of compilations, another one that I've been really interested in was Mario Hour.
Hmm.
Um, I was actually really interested in that when Darby first brought up the challenge, but the one game that held me back was Mario 64.
Yep.
Um, just doing the BLJs and stuff like that, I could never get it down. So that is the only game that's holding me back because I already know how to do all the other 5 games.
Hmm.
Um, but if I ever learn like Mario 64 at some point, I'll be doing Mario Hour runs eventually
Yeah.
because it's been like 4 or 5 years in the making now that I've been planning to do this, but I never had a chance to do it.
Yeah. I've done one run ever. It was like 110 because I knew how to do everything, and then I didn't know Mario 64 really at the time, so I got like a 19-minute, which is pretty good. But now my PB is like 11 minutes.
Yeah, that's
So
that's a
I,
huge improvement there.
yeah. So I think I could get Mario Hour if I put some time into it, but especially now that the timing's kind of changed where loads are removed to make it a little more fair to certain people with different hardware, but it's still like a daunting task. I definitely need to learn Mario World better. So, and actually, circling back to when you were saying like you run Mario and Sonic a lot, so you want to branch out, and maybe it's a little hard to do that sometimes, and maybe there's some expectations. That's something I definitely personally struggle with. Like there's so many
Mm.
things I whoa, my something just screwed up on my stream. It freaked me out. Anyway,
Oh,
I don't know what it was, but all right. I don't know if that showed up on stream, but anyway, sorry that like threw me off guard. It was like disoriented me. But yeah, I want to branch out too, but it like you always feel like you need to be on your A game, and you can't. Like you have to focus on this if you want to stay consistent, and it really like makes you burn out, or you lose motivation, and then you won't do anything. And that's just something I struggle with. So, do you struggle with that, or do you have ways to combat stuff like that?
so when I try to learn a different run that's completely out of my element, I usually like to watch like other people's runs, or if they have a tutorial out there, then I'll try to watch bits and pieces of that. Um, and then I'll play the game on my own casually to see like how long it'll take me to finish a game, and then probably play it again and just throw in speedrun strats in there and see if it feels like it'll click with me. But yeah, there were some games in particular that felt pretty intimidating at first, but after a while, being able to play the game, and if I knew it ahead of time, like if I played it casually before, or even if I haven't even played the game like at all, like I think one game in particular that I did a speedrun of was Chip and Dale. I never played the game casually before,
Mm,
and my first speedrun of that, I got like I think it's like a 14-minute time. Then I brought it down to like an 11-minute time shortly after. But I remember I was watching Takate run that a lot, and when I was watching him play it, then I was like, maybe I can play this too. So I learned that run eventually, and then I got like a decent time on it. It's not a good time, but it's decent in my standards, I guess.
hmm
But it was very intimidating at first because I didn't understand like how to like pick up the item and then throw it into the boss or something like that. That took me a while, and then from there, I was like thinking, okay, what else can I probably learn to speedrun, and how can I approach it? So, like definitely watching other people run it, whether it's like live on stream or on YouTube or something like that. I pretty much go to those first. Um, and sometimes I'll write down notes to see like what kind of strats they're doing and which level. And then like when I'm doing it on my own, I can have the notepad open and see, okay, this level will have this strat here. I'll try to do that strat. So it's one way to learn for that. And of course, like whenever people from that specific community comes into the chat when they're watching me play the game and I'm trying to learn the run, like having their insight is really helpful too.
hmm
Um, so there's just various things that like even though like pretty much learning the same way you learn like a Mario or Sonic speedrun, it's just like different games, different play styles. Even if it's like a platformer, but there could be like different elements in there, like oh, you can shoot enemies, you can like place items in different places, so on and so forth. In which with Mario, you get the fire flower, you get the cape, you can fly, stuff like that. Sonic is like spin dashing, elemental shields. Um, so there's always different elements between all those games, but they still have like the same point A to point B finish, and glitches are always different as well. Like they can have different ways of clipping inside a wall or getting a zip or something of that nature. Um, but yeah, like it definitely can be intimidating at first, but once you get like your first playthrough in there, or even just like a first speed run, like going in cold, like just getting one run under a belt, like that's enough for me there. Like I can carry, build on from that.
Yeah. So, are there any like future speedruns you want to learn that you didn't talk about yet, or have you like mentioned everything you're thinking of?
Right now, like top of my list is Mega Man Battle Network 2.
hmm
That's one game that I've been wanting to play. It's my favorite Mega Man game from the series. Others are like I know I have a list somewhere. Let me see if I can pull up that list really quick. I've been keeping a list in my notepad here of like
hmm
various speedruns I've been wanting to learn. So I do want to learn Golden Sun, which is one of my favorite RPGs. Um, then there's Billy Hatcher, which I
Hmm.
did play recently casually. The speedrun looks really fun. Like I was watching Cosmic do those runs
Yep.
before. Um, Super Vallis 4 on the Super Nintendo. That's another game I've been looking into. Um, and then there's Link to the Past, so that I can do the Zelda trilogy. Because I already know how to run Zelda 1 and Zelda 2. But Link to the Past was the one game that I haven't looked into yet. But I'm hoping to start that pretty soon. But there's like so many speedruns that I
Oh
want to
yeah.
learn, but so little time, and then especially with like all the goals that I want to reach.
Yeah, that's definitely how I
It's
feel.
yeah, it's just trying to find the balance. But there could be those days where I'm like, okay, I just want to dedicate this day to something else. So like I'll just take a break from Sonic and Mario and I'll just play this game for this day. And then if I feel like I like it, then I'll play it the next week or the week after, so on and so forth. Um, Same goes for any other game. Like if there's something that I really want to get into, I'll play it for a bit, see how I feel about it, and then if I like it, I'll keep playing it. So,
Hmm.
but I guess currently right now, like Streets of Rage 2 has been like the one game that I've been playing a lot lately. Even like off stream as well. Like it's pretty simple, like straightforward because it's just fighting basically, but beat 'em
Hmm.
up. But to like optimize stages, like there's it's like special moves that you got to utilize that deals more damage, and just understanding when to deal more damage and try to group a lot of enemies together and just knock them out all in once. It's still like a learning process there, but that's like the one game currently that I'm gonna stick with for a bit. Um, and then like whatever comes up next, I'll be probably learning that in the future.
Sorry, I had to look at a text message. Let's see. Uh, Here, what's your favorite speedruns to watch? I don't think we've talked about just watching. Like, if it's something you have ran or not at all or never plan to.
Speedruns I like to watch. So Mega Man X is one of them.
Mm.
I've been watching Clipper run that, and she's really talented at that game, and she even ran it at a GDQ before as well.
Hmm.
So I like watching Mega Man X. Although Mega Man X4 is like one of my favorite in the X series, but I don't see anybody run that. So, and then let's see what else. Super Metroid, I like watching that too.
Hmm.
Like I'll watch Shiny Zenny run it, or Oats and Goats run it, or even Zoast. Um, and then there's the Resident Evil speedruns, like Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8. I've been watching Marforia and Catlink run those. Even like the older Resident Evil games as well. Like they've been running like I think 1 and 2 and 3, like the remakes as well. So like I've been kind of getting into like the horror
Hmm.
speedruns too, like Resident Evil, Silent Hill. Like I'll watch an Eternal Enigma run Silent Hill. Um, and then there's like a few other runners that I watch. Um, like aside from Sonic and Mario mostly,
Hmm.
even though those are like my go-tos really.
Yeah.
Like if I'm watching a Mario run, I'll watch Cosmic, I'll watch you.
Hmm.
Um, like I've been watching Slade do Mario Hour runs.
Oh yeah. He's been going
Um,
ham on that.
yeah, he's been killing it so far. Like I see he has a 57 in that, which is pretty impressive. Um,
And that's with loads.
yeah. And then whenever Takate is around, I like
Hmm.
watching Chippendale speedruns from him. So I'm trying to think if there's like any other run that I like to watch.
I assume you like
Uh,
watching Sonic runs as well. Maybe.
yeah, yeah. I mostly watch Joey and some other Sonic runners. Like a lot of the 3D runs too. Like Sonic
Hmm.
Frontiers has been hitting it off pretty well in the speedrunning scene. Like there has been new skips being found like practically every time I see somebody play the game.
Mm.
So, like I've been watching Critical Sid, I've been watching Emerald. Helix recently started running it. Katie is running it as
Hmm.
well, and I think let's see what else. I yeah, Mortal Kombat runs. I watched that too. Been watching Tenka and mostly Tenka. I don't think Combat King has been running it lately. Like he's been doing more of the casual stuff. Um, then Mega Man Battle Network speedruns from Rish. Um, I think that's all I can think of as of now. I'm sure there's like others out there, but those are the ones that pop up the most.
Yep. Um, what else? Oh, what about favorite speedrunning moment?
Speedrunning moment.
Maybe personally or even just at all. That'd be interesting.
So favorite speedrunning moment. I'll give a two-parter here. So
Ooh.
for me, it was getting the Sonic 1 glitchless record.
Mm-hmm.
That is by far my biggest moment. As far as somebody else, seeing a sub 19 happen in SMB one warpless when Cosmic got it the first time. I thought that was like the a really huge milestone for the category,
Mm-hmm.
especially with any percent being like the more dominant category with like a lot of runners getting into it and stuff like that. But when Cosmic broke that minute barrier, that pretty much opened the door for yourself, Nifsky, Scalpel, just Eddie Cat Gaming, like a lot of other younger folks that got like the sub 19 threshold. So I'm still like 3 seconds away from that. I gotta get sub 19 eventually.
Yeah.
But seeing that happen for the first time when Cosmic got it, I was like in the stream when it
Mm-hmm.
happened. It was a really cool moment.
Yeah. I remember back then, before Sub 19 happened, the top three was Cosmic, you, and me.
Yeah.
How times have changed. I'm
Yeah, I
actually the
know.
only one of us still there.
Yeah, I'm down to like 14th now, but I'll
Uh,
get back up there eventually,
you'll get
hopefully.
Sub 19 someday. You have to. It's mandatory.
Yeah, I gotta get it.
Yeah, you will. I know it. Like your low 1902 was like already there. I forget what it was, but there was like one like mistake that costed some time, and the fact that it's still like a 1902 is pretty good. I don't think it
Yeah,
was sub 19
so
pace quite though.
it was like I want to say 1901 or
Hmm.
19 flat base.
Yeah.
But what happened in that run was I lost a frame roll in 6-4,
Hmm.
and then I lost another frame roll in 7-4. I got hit in 8-2,
Hmm.
which is a big time loss.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I got hit in 8-2, and I had to play the rest of the run small. My 8-4 was pretty decent, and it was just good enough to get a 1902. But
You got a low 1902, so you had plenty of leeway there.
yeah, so it was a really good run. Like I got the 4-4 clip.
Hmm.
Um, it's just that end like from 6-4 onward, that's where all the time saves are.
Yep.
But when I was doing attempts, I had some pretty good runs up to 4-4, but I either missed a clip or messed up the Bowser kill or something. But I haven't had a run past 4-4 yet, as of now. But before, when I would get paces, it was at least like 19 flat pace that I would normally get. But like with the strats that I'm going for, like I can get the fast kills in 2-4, 3-4, and then get the 4-4 clip, get the fast kill there. And then depending on what pace I'm on in 5-4, I can pretty much know like if I need to do the fast kill or not.
Hmm.
So I can get the good frame roll in 6-4. So I did practice a lot of the back half of the game. It's just the early half of the game I need to get past and
Yeah, the
then do
consistency
the
needs to exist. 4-4 clip
yeah.
especially. It's just
Hmm.
so hard.
Yeah, but one of these days I'll get sub 19, but
Yeah,
we'll see.
I've been waiting for years, so I just better see it sometime.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll try it this year.
Cool, cool. So did you say what your favorite game to speedrun was yet? Was that
Sonic 3 and
S3K?
Knuckles.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know you were saying like it was like your favorite game ever just at all, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
it's definitely my
but
number one game.
it's your number one speedrun as well. I guess it
Yeah.
works out then. All right. kind of running out of things to talk about. We talked about quite a bit already, but I guess we talked about like future speedrun plans. Do you just have like future streaming content plans or anything revolving speedrunning? Even not.
Uh, so as far as streaming goes, like since streaming is currently my full-time job,
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to keep a schedule going like throughout the week. So like Monday through Friday, I'll do like 2 streams per day. Like I'll do like a afternoon stream from like 2 to 5 my time, Pacific time, and then a night one from like 7 to 10. So that's like 6 hours ish. Then on Wednesdays, I brought back casual Wednesdays back. I was on a hiatus from it for a while. So I'm trying to get through the backlog that I have for that, and then uh, get some new channel point redemptions in for casual gaming.
I need to get
Um,
my own casual gaming stuff set up. That's something I've
yeah,
been
you
wanting to
should.
do, and I just can't. My motivation to stream has been lackluster recently. I need to fix that, and then just overall laziness too. So much I need to do and just don't. I need to do.
Mm,
So I'll try to figure out something like that myself. Get a plan
yeah,
going.
yeah, for sure. Like, as long as you can try to like attempt a schedule,
Mm-hmm.
like that'll pretty much get you to think like if you like it or not. And then once you think that you like it, you can continue doing it, and that'll get you in a rhythm to be like, okay, I need to stream at this time till this time, and take a break, do it again.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it could always vary with people.
Yeah.
But as long as you put your mindset into it, then you can definitely do it.
Yeah.
Um, so I've been trying to maintain a schedule as much as I can, although there will be some instances where I won't be able to do it if I have something going on or if there's like some personal issues happening, which is understandable. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, it's like, oh man, I want to maintain the schedule. I don't want to miss it or anything like that. So, but at the same time, if you try to think of it that way, then it kind of burns you out much
Oh
quicker,
yeah.
and like the mentality of it gets worse. So, as long as you just kind of keep doing your thing, and then you'll just kind of see it improve like onward. So that's I've been trying to maintain a schedule. Then I've been thinking about doing like a subathon pretty soon as well,
Mm.
and then have some sub goals and see if I can unlock more emotes and such. Um, and then of course, there's events coming up very soon, so I won't be able to stream during those days, but I'll try to adjust with my schedule accordingly. But yeah, aside from that, it's just gonna be a lot of speedrunning during the week, and then on weekends I usually stream with Japsy Man on YouTube. Um, and then I don't stream on Sundays really, so
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much it.
Yeah, you have a good consistent schedule.
Hmm.
That's what I need. So I'll figure that out.
Yeah.
I guess we're kind of wrapping up. So if anyone in chat wants to ask some questions, I'll say now is a good time to get them out of the way if you're interested. And in the meantime, while we're waiting, is there anything you want to bring up that we didn't talk about?
Let's see. So as far as like speedrunning goes, like I've been doing all I can really to kind of keep myself motivated, and I'm only been speedrunning for almost 7 years now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's still going pretty strong.
Yep.
So I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. I've I've seen people my age or older than me still speedrunning, so I'm like, if they can do that, I can still do it too, as long as I keep my mind to it.
Yep.
Um, and of course, when it comes to going to events, like I still want to go to every event I can, but if I can't, then it's fine. But I definitely want to go to more events in the future, and hang out with people again and meet new people.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
definitely that way too. Like, remember that thing on Twitter that was going around recently, like what pill you would take? And it was like
mhm.
all like, oh, this will give you more viewers or this will make you more consistent. Yeah. It's the if I could go to every event, I would all day, every day pill.
Oh yeah, oh
That's
yeah,
the most fun I have with speedrunning is going to events and hanging out with fellow people.
yeah, for sure. Like that's definitely the main thing I would like to do is just to hang out with like a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't think there's really anything else. for now. Like I'm still just doing my thing, just trying to do streams as much as I can, and sometimes go out if I feel like it. Like I'm always like cooped up in the house most of the time, but
Oh
sometimes
yeah.
I'll try to force myself to go out a little bit. It's kind of, you know, just see what's around and whatnot. But and then of course hang out with people when I can. Like I'm local to Japsy and Cutiru, so I try to see them when I can. Um, and then like if anybody's in town, like that want to hang out, like I try to arrange something to hang out, get some food and whatnot, and just play games.
Yep. All right. Well, I guess if we've talked about everything we can think of, that's pretty much it. So if you want to self promote however you would like to, take the stage.
All right. Well, as you can see on the bottom of the screen, you can follow me on Twitch at SuperSonic underscore. You can also check out my YouTube channel at SuperSonic71087. And you can also follow me on Twitter as well with that same name as well as on YouTube. I also have a Discord server as well. We've been trying to do some community stuff as well, like try to do some like Smash Brothers or Mario Kart or something, just kind of get things together. But we're still trying to get that up and running. And also, a huge thanks to GTAs for having me on the show for the first episode, and really appreciate it.
Thanks for being
And
on. I'm glad some people are interested in this. Makes me happy
yeah,
knowing that I'm doing something cool.
yeah, when you brought it up to me, it's like, yeah, I wanted to be a part of it. So, yeah, thanks for having me again. And yeah, I think that's it.
All right. Well, thanks again for being on. Thanks everyone for watching, and follow Supersonic. I'll in the YouTube video. I'll obviously have all the links in the description. They're there on stream for you Twitch viewers. And yeah, stay tuned for the next episode next Sunday. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a good one.